This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar.
Hello, everybody.
Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
Guys that break out early as freshmen and sophomores in college tend to be really good NFL players.
So you're telling me that the better players in college end up being better players in the pros. This is what the nerds have figured out.
The guys that...
It took them till 2024 to figure this out. Congratulations,
no,
nerds. Yes, the better...
Can you just stop? Us in a nutshell right there.
Pretty much.
Can you just stop, please? Jules, you like the intro? You like the intro? Yeah, she likes it. She was bopping in there to it. I told Jules is our new faith. I don't even know what your title is. I just call you New Faith. And I told her when she got hired that, the Patriots used to have another Jules, and it was a pretty good decision for the Patriots to hire that Jules.
Look at that one. Yeah, there you go.
Have two good Juleses now. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth.
Is she going to call everybody Bub?
Maybe. She's going to, catch game-winning touchdowns in Super Bowls too, and yeah. Anyways, Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Patriots Catch-22 next couple of hours, and Alex, big news on the pod today, and that is that we officially have ad reads. We have ad reads.
All
Look
right.
at this. Ad reads for the show. The show is sponsored, and lately, Alex, I've had a kick of Bud Light seltzers. You try any Bud Light seltzers?
I have had those, yes.
Well, it's easy to drink. It's easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots.
All right. Look at
And
that.
I'm dead serious about that, though. It's been my new thing lately, Bud Light seltzers. So, anyways,
it's almost summer. It is a good, beach. It's a great beach.
You always make
beach
fun
drink.
of me for drinking the seltzers in the winter. You're telling me that it's a summer only drink.
I will, but it's like I'm thinking of the beach when I think of something like that, and then it bums me out because today all of a sudden it was nice the other day, and now it's like 30 degrees again. I feel that much further away from that.
Now it's freezing. All right, so I'm excited about today's show because we finally can move on from free agency. Is there anything more overrated in the NFL than free agency? And I know that people are going to think I'm carrying the water because the Patriots didn't make any big splashes. Whatever. Go ahead. All right. Think that. I'm telling you, what move in free agency across the board, besides the Falcons signing Kirk Cousins because he's a decent quarterback, right? Is really going to move the needle. This is not the NBA or the MLB where you can win a championship in the NBA in July because the Warriors signed Kevin Durant and now everybody knows who's going to win the title that year. I feel like the most overrated part of the calendar in the NFL is free agency. And now for nerds like you and I, we get to get back into the draft, which is the real team building exercise in the NFL. I just was looking across the board yesterday at all these different free agent moves, and I can't think of a single one off the top of my head looking through this list where I'm sitting there saying, that team is significantly better because of the moves that they made in free agency. Other than Atlanta, maybe just because Cousins gives them
maybe Houston. That's kind of it.
Yeah, Houston made a couple good moves for pass rush, right? To go along with Will Anderson. And I would say the Jets, and I wanted to talk briefly about the Jets in this opening here. I think the Jets are in a really... They've leaned all into this philosophy of we probably have 1 or 2 years with Aaron Rodgers, maybe only one, and we're just going to hit all the high upside value contracts that we can possibly find on a Mike Williams, on a Tyron Smith. This is either going to work out and they're either going to go on a run and be a Super Bowl contender, or the Jets are going to be absolutely terrible. I feel like there's no in between there. Either everybody that they signed that's injury prone, that's getting up there in age, all these guys are going to get banged up, all these guys are going to get injured, or they're going to be a Super Bowl team. There's no in between. And that to me is free agency in a nutshell. Is these are all you're banking on. These guys based off of past performance are going to come in and make your team better, when in reality, most of the time, these guys either hit free agency because they're not all that good, or they hit free agency because their career is on the downward slope and their best football is behind them. So I look at a lot of these free agent moves and I'm just kind of like, I'm not sitting here resenting the fact that the Patriots didn't make them. I guess is the way I'm trying to get at it. And we have some pro day stuff to talk about, but just wanted to put a bow on free agency and finally allow us to move on from that nonsense.
Yeah, I think my thoughts on free agency, I think it holds a little more weight than maybe you're saying, but I think it's the teams at the top of the league jockeying for position. I think you can see good teams start to enter great territory in free agency. I don't think any teams are going to insert them. Like, the contenders are who they are at that point, and they're all trying to outmaneuver each other. You're not going to see a team come from the bottom of the league to contender status in free agency. And it's weird because I think the NFL is the only league, correct me if I'm wrong, that does free agency before the draft. Right? Because basketball does it after. Hockey's after. Baseball's
baseball's
its own thing.
Yeah,
but
that's your side of the street. I have no idea.
Anyway, the draft's in the middle of the season. It would be like if the NFL draft was in October.
What a bizarre sport.
Yeah, they need to fix their draft. But it's the only really major sport where they do the draft after free agency, which creates this weird dynamic because really what free agency is supposed to be is rounding out the corners, adding the pieces you need.
Right.
But because you haven't had the draft yet, you maybe don't know what that entire picture looks like. So because it's set up that way, I think you look at last year's contenders and who's kind of moving pieces as they need to move them. For all the other teams, it's, they're adding players, and some teams might make splashes, but you really don't see. The closest thing you probably saw was the 21 Patriots, where they went from 7-9. They added a bunch of talent, but that's super rare.
Even in that instance, too, though, when you really think about it, and I know that we're out on Mac Jones now that he's a Jacksonville Jaguar, but they were 3 wins better from the year before after that spending spree. How much of that was that they had better quarterback play? Because as much as Cam Newton did some good things in 2020, was obviously helpful in terms of the mobility, there's no doubt that Mac Jones was a better passer his rookie year than Cam Newton was in 2020. He had more to work with. I'm not trying to revisit that whole thing, but in general, the quarterback was probably more responsible for more of those wins, I would say, than all the spending that they did. So I feel like we get all geeked up for free agency. And again, maybe it's just because the Patriots typically don't participate in the top of the market outside of a 2021 or a random splash signing like a Stephon Gilmore or, going all the way back to Rosie Colvin, Adelius Thomas, Rodney Harrison. But they never really participate in that part, so maybe that's part of it. But at the same time, I just feel like I really feel like they're right to, and I know people are gonna look at that and say, "Oh, you're just making excuses for them or whatever." But I really feel like they are trying to do things the right way this time. And I keep going back to the quote that Robert Kraft had at the owners' meetings after the 2021 free agency period, where he said, we used to laugh at teams that did it this way.
Right.
And, we only really did it this way this year because there was a market inefficiency with COVID and the lack of bump in salary cap space for everybody, and we just happened to be one of the few teams that actually were in the net positive in salary cap space. So we zigged in a situation where we would normally zag. But he even had skepticism about it at the time. And then we fast forward 3 years later, and it's pretty clear to me that they're looking at it and saying, that didn't work. Maybe it worked for 1 year like we expected, but it didn't work
wasn't sustainable
in the long term, and let's do it correctly. It might be frustrating for fans, might be disappointing year 1, year 2 of the rebuild, but they're trying to do it the right way. Anyways, 855-PATS-500 is the phone number. webradio@patriots.com is the email address. We already have a couple emails, so we'll get to some of those. We'll get to the phone calls, but I want to start with the pro days as well. And yesterday, USC, big pro day for Caleb Williams, which is kind of anticlimactic because the Bears are taking Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
it really was like a Bears love fest with Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams, and that was pretty much it.
There was no interest for me in it. Like, I watched it, but
yeah.
Let's get to the guys that we're actually going to be talking about.
The only reason why I think there was slight interest is because
he punted that ball.
No, because you want to.
That was my favorite part.
You want to see how he throws because now you're going to watch the other guys throw, and maybe there is some ability to translate that to compare them, whether it's Caleb versus Drake versus Jaden versus JJ, whatever. So there's some element to that. Brandon Rice was also participating in the pro day as well, the USC receiver who I want to talk a little bit about. But I actually want to start with Texas because there's some interesting information from Tony Pauline, longtime draft guy, draft guru, about the Patriots contingent in UT in Austin. And it wasn't Elliott Wolf. Elliott Wolf was at SoCal and at USC, but it was DeMarcus Covington on the defensive side of the ball. And according to Jim Nagy, I believe, or somebody, maybe it was Tony, put out there that the Patriots wide receivers coach was there.
There was a wide receivers
so
coach.
It's either Tyquan Underwood or Tyler Hughes.
Or both.
And for obvious reasons, for A.D. Mitchell and Xavier
And
Worthy.
I just want to stress to people, because I saw a bunch of people confused by this yesterday, with people confused that I thought they were at USC. You can attend, you obviously can't, Elliott Wolf can't be in both places at the same time, but teams will send representatives to multiple pro days. They'll spread the organization out. So, because they're all kind of crammed together here over the next week. Whoever scheduled these pro days, it's a mess. But
this is how they always do it.
There's going to be, like, for instance, Washington's is the same day as North Carolina's next week.
Yep.
And the report is that Mayo, Wolf, AVP will all be at
Chapel
UNC,
Hill.
right, to watch Drake May. And people are like, well, what about Washington? Even beyond Penix, right? They've got two good tackles.
My
They've got
guess
some good
is that
receivers.
Tyler Hughes will go home and say hi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I would be shocked if none of the big top decision makers will be there, which is, it'd be nice if one of them could be, but
Well, there was one decision maker at Alabama.
right.
Yesterday it was Alonzo Highsmith.
So maybe
he's the extra guy.
Maybe he goes to Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just because they're at one pro day on one day, you got to look at the individual names. Just because the team is represented at one pro day on one day doesn't mean that other representatives of the team aren't elsewhere on the same day.
Yeah, and they will also have private workouts with all these quarterbacks. So all these opportunities are exactly that. They're opportunities to get to know the guy a little bit better.
Right.
You get your boots on the ground on campus. You talk to some of their coaches. You talk to some of the support staff that's there. You obviously watch them work out. But in terms of actually studying a workout, I would say that we get into top 30 visits and things like that. The Patriots will host all these guys here and put them through workouts privately that will be more inclined to say this is what they're interested in. I wouldn't necessarily look, I guess what I'm getting at is I wouldn't necessarily look too much into, Elliott Wolf is at this pro day and Elliott Wolf is at that pro day. Elliott Wolf's going to go to all the pro days that are important, especially at the top, right, of the draft. So they'll have Drake May here. They'll have J.J. McCarthy here. They'll have Jaden Daniels here, I'm sure, at some point in the next 5 weeks. So anyways, I thought that the report, though, about Xavier Worthy meeting with the Patriots and having a couple of hours with the Pats, it sounded like 2 afternoons ago, not yesterday, but maybe the day before, was interesting because one of the things that I think we do a ton is look at different scenarios. And if the Patriots take a quarterback at 3, and now we're talking about how do you spread out your resources on day 2 in wide receiver and tackle. And Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell are two guys that most likely, I think, are going first round, top 32, especially after the 40 for Xavier Worthy. When you run a 4.21, those guys don't last very long in the NFL draft. It's just the way it is.
Well, we don't know how long they last in the NFL draft. Nobody's ever done it.
Well, that's true. But look at John Ross.
I get what you're. Yeah, I've just.
Henry Ruggs was supposed to be a 4.2 guy, top 10 pick, top 10, right? I think it was like 9 or 10.
Right.
So, anyways, what do you make of that? Where do you see Xavier Worthy fitting into this? And I kind of feel like that maybe there is a chance that he or A.D. Mitchell or one of these receivers that we think is going around. I think it's probably going to be Keon Coleman, to be honest, but maybe it's somebody else. It falls to the Patriots there at the top of the second round.
Or do they get aggressive and move up into the late 20s, which is very doable.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm working on for my next mock draft. What do I make of the meeting? And Pauline had that meeting with Jatavion Sanders, too.
Yeah.
Who's a second-round pick, very explosive tight end. We're both big fans of him. They didn't meet with A.D. Mitchell. And you go through the past meetings, and as much as we track meetings, and it is what we talk about this time of year, I think they made 10 draft picks last year. I think they met with 2 of those guys before the draft. If that, the year before it was only a handful. There's been a couple times we found out after the fact that they met with players and it was never reported.
Yeah.
Now that's obviously a different regime, but they meet with Worthy. They meet with Sanders. Is it smokescreen season? Because Mitchell's the guy that makes the most sense. I think Mitchell's the guy that makes the most sense to them. If they can get one of the Texas guys, and I've said this, can they just draft the Texas offense in the first round? Just at 3, all right, who are you taking? The Longhorns offense, right? That would be my ideal draft. But since they can't do that, of the 3 guys, I think A.D. Mitchell makes the most sense.
Me too.
I think that big, true, outside X receiver is what they've been lacking. I think Worthy's a nice player, but I don't think, they'd still have a pretty big hole even if they add him in terms of that size, in terms of that outside presence.
Yeah.
So, and you have Pop Douglas, like there's going to be some overlap there. Worthy's probably a better player, but let's not bury the one good skill position player they have, right? Yeah. So I just find it very interesting that the one guy that's an easy fit is the one guy they're not talking to, and it's like, okay.
Well, unless they think that maybe that one guy is going to be a top 25, top 20 pick.
They met with Anthony Richardson last year. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, but he's a quarterback. They're going to meet with the
no, they do this. They do this all the time. They met with Michael Mayer last year. They weren't going to have a chance to draft him.
Yeah, they could have drafted Mayer. Mayer went at the top of the second round.
Oh, no, who am I thinking of? They met with some skill position player last year.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. I think that there's definitely a possibility. I know that there's a lot of questions about why the fact that they haven't met with Michael Penix and really shown much.
Right.
They
He's
did
the
talk
only
to him,
one they haven't met with.
So they did talk to him at the Senior Bowl, I think, but they talked to everybody at the Senior Bowl.
Well, but he said at the Combine, he was asked if he'd had a meeting with the Patriots. He said no.
Well, maybe he meant in Indy. I'm pretty sure. I mean, you pretty much meet with almost
I'm
every
sure they
single
talk to
person
him, but it's like there's
at the Senior
definitely
Bowl.
less contact between Penix and the Patriots than any of the other top quarterbacks.
Right. So if we want to look deep into this, which again I just told you we probably shouldn't, but that's what we do.
Right.
So we can look deep into it. I think there's a possibility that a guy like Michael Penix is like their plan B at quarterback. If their guy doesn't fall to 3, maybe they do the trade down, or maybe they pick Marvin Harrison Jr. or whatever, and then Michael Penix is the guy that they don't want anybody to know that they're interested in at 34. I also think there's a possibility that the Texas guys, maybe they just had a little bit more information already on A.D. Mitchell. Maybe they feel better about his projection because he does, he's not 165 pounds.
Right.
Right. Things like that. That's what worries me a little bit about Worthy. But I do want to say that Worthy is not Tyquan Thornton. Like,
No.
He's not just a guy that ran a really fast 40-yard dash and is a one-trick pony, and that's all he does. This is I would say, plays a lot like Pop Douglas, Zay Flowers, that type of player, jitterbug, first, second, third level receiver, but he also happens to run an absolute elite time.
Right. And he's 6'1". He's taller than
Yeah, he's a little bit taller. Still really, really thin, but he's tall and lean instead of squatty. Like, he's not built like an undersized running back.
Smith.
Yeah, Devontae Smith's similar body type.
That's got to be the comp, yeah.
Yeah, he's faster than Devontae Smith and not as polished.
Right.
But he is, in my mind, though, one of those guys that you're going to want to move around the formation and sort of use as a slot Z receiver that's going to hunt matchups and hunt space in the defense, whether it's from inside the formation or in motion or something like that. It's not a player that you're going to want to expose a ton of reps of press man coverage to out on the perimeter. And I still feel like when you stack their receiver room together, as much as I am of the mind that you can't just... They need so much top end talent at that position that you can't just pigeonhole yourself to the X receiver like that. That's
right.
Doing yourself a disservice. But at the same time, you do wonder who is really going to play that X? Are we just going to throw KJ Osborne out there just to take on contact and like if you catch a few passes, you catch a few passes. If not, you don't. It's just kind of one of those things where, almost like in the Brady era at times, where the X receiver was sort of like the afterthought in the offense, and it was really running through the tight ends and the slot receivers in the middle of the field. Maybe that's the way that they look at it. Maybe that's the way that they go. I love Xavier Worthy, great route runner, absolutely a 3-level threat. Not one of these guys that's just a track star. Has a lot of skill with the ball in his hands as well. So we'll see what ends up happening with all these guys. But I felt it was interesting that they went to USC with the whole contingent. And I get you have to plan for all circumstances. Right. And if there's a chance that Caleb Williams falls, you want to make sure that you have your homework done on him. But the way that he greeted Keenan Allen, the way that this is all going, it sounds like
we all know what's happening.
The Bears are taking him. But before we start to open this up a little bit to the calls and the emails, I do want to ask you about Brandon Rice, because he's a guy that I've watched recently, and we are going to do some recency bias this week. But Brandon Rice obviously was the top guy working at a receiver yesterday. I don't think that's why they were necessarily there, but he's a player that I find to be intriguing. We're talking about these X receivers. I think he's somebody that's going to be a day 2 pick, maybe at 68. You can start talking about drafting him for the Patriots. Kind of, in my mind, the way that he plays and the way that he looks on film is sort of like the tier below A.D. Mitchell. He has a lot of the same qualities, but he's just not quite as explosive. He's a 4.5 guy. A.D. Mitchell's a mid 4.3 guy. He's, got some production in college. A.D. Mitchell was really good last year in that category. So it's similar body types, similar route trees, similar ways that they win, but Mitchell's maybe just a little bit of a better prospect.
Yeah, I think Rice is, we've talked about, all right, so you're going to go quarterback at the top of the draft, and then what order do you go tackle receiver with the next 2 picks? If the 34th pick is dedicated to a tackle, he's, I think, as good as they're going to get on day 3 in terms of what they need. I think he's going to be one of their top options at receiver on the board at 68 if that's the way they go, and you kind of said it. He gives them that sort of prototypical X wide receiver, maybe not as explosive as a guy like A.D. Mitchell, but he does look like he'll be a solid NFL wide receiver. I don't think he has that ceiling. I don't think you're guaranteed to get a number 1. But if you draft him and he's a capable X, then next year you go back out and you try to get like a dynamic Z receiver or something like that, and you go from there.
Yeah, he would fit and would definitely not take a haul to trade up to grab him like a Mitchell or a Brian Thomas Jr. or something like that. The one thing I would say about him, though, that on film, I texted you about this, he has this weird... He gets off the line of scrimmage fine, and I think he avoids press coverage all right, but he just doesn't have great acceleration to get himself rolling. Once he's rolling, he's got pretty good build-up speed, but he has this almost like hitch in his step where he just doesn't have that ability to really pull away from the DB. So he should be getting vertical stack separation, whatever you want to call it. He should be able to stack these guys more often than he is on film. And I wonder if that is it physical, that he just doesn't have the acceleration, doesn't have the burst to do it, or is it something that he's doing with his footwork and with his technique that can be coached, that can be fixed? Because it's so weird. He'll get the DB on his heels, he'll get it off the line of scrimmage just fine, and then he goes to put on the jets to run by the guy, and it's just like a like go, like you just want to yell at the screen and just be like, come on, man, like go.
He plays like a big receiver.
Yeah.
And
takes a lot to get that momentum rolling for him up the field.
And he is a big receiver. Yeah. But it feels like he's maybe more athletic than it lets on, and maybe that's a coaching thing. Who knows? But yeah, he just doesn't have that top gear that some of these other X receivers do.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so Alonzo Highsmith was at Alabama, right? So you do have Jermaine Burton there, a receiver prospect that I think is going to be a day 2 guy. Obviously Dallas Turner's there, some Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid worked out, McKintry, corners, defensive guys, typical Alabama stuff. But there was one tackle.
I would say what's interesting about Alabama this year is, and you just kind of alluded to it, and the reason I think we're not talking about them as much as we usually do, I don't think it's a like Bill's not here thing, Saban's not there thing. It's all defensive players.
Yeah.
Of their 12 players who are projected to be drafted, 9 play defense, then 1's a kicker. So that just leaves you with,
well, there's Latham.
It's 1 less. It's Latham, Burton, and McClellan, who's their backup running back.
Yeah.
And that's it. So not the same offensive talent. And, McClellan's a day 3 pick. Burton's right on that line. The only locked top 100 pick is Latham, who I just said with the receiver, you can apply it to tackle. Would the Patriots trade up from 34? And one of these tackles is going to fall into the mid-20s. But it's just the needs don't necessarily match up with what the Patriots are looking for this year.
Yeah, Latham's an interesting one because his play strength is undeniable. He's an extremely physical guy. He can move people in the run game easily, really dense a line of scrimmage, combo blocks, get up to the second level, all these types of things. But I think the one thing that's interesting about him is he has some heavy-footedness in pass pro, and he has some issues with redirect skill in pass pro that fits some of these other guys that have flamed out, that have been early round picks in that sort of mold. Like, he's a better player than Alex Leatherwood was, but it's not totally different than a guy like Alex Leatherwood. The big one is always DJ Fluker, who was just this massive, jacked guy coming out of college that had great play strength and had all these flashy run blocks on film. But then he got to the pros and he struggled on an island in pass protection.
Right.
So I think there are some concerns with that, with J.C. Latham, that could push him down the board a little bit. The other guy, and I don't know when Georgia's pro day is, but I'm sure they'll have somebody there. If not,
that's soon.
Is Amarius Mims. I'm really interested to see where Mims goes in this draft because of his lack of tape and his injury history.
Oh, Georgia's was last week.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Why did we not talk
March
about
13th.
Why didn't nobody talk about that?
This is like the second day free agency.
Yeah, there's also Georgia this year. I mean, they don't have the dogs that they normally have.
No, some of the pro days this year, I don't want to say duds, but like Georgia doesn't have the class coming out it usually does. Ohio State's is like not, especially with Marv not working out.
Yeah.
I wonder if they had Marv not work out because they didn't want the league to come and see the lack of NFL talent they have this year overall.
Yeah, it's not
because he had a bunch of guys, like all their guys went back to school.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I forgot almost to mention that. But yeah, I wonder. Those are the two guys I wonder with in the first round that are projected first round tackles.
Yeah,
are Mims. Only 800 career snaps, only 7 career starts, had the tightrope surgery last year on his ankle. Just a lack of – that's a big lottery ticket to cash in the first round. If you're a team that's maybe picking in the 20s, that's already a playoff team that has the ability to do that, that's one thing. But if you're a team that is trying to rebuild and is trying to get their program up and running like the Patriots are – obviously, he's not a third overall pick type of guy, but you understand what I'm getting at.
Well, do you buy that you get more flexibility if you're making a second first-round pick?
Probably. I just look at a guy like Mims that, historically speaking, that's a guy that usually falls out of the first round. Right. That is an early second-round pick. That's one of these guys that we always say every year. First-round talent, but has some question marks about his durability and has a lack of playing time in college. So, he's the 34th overall pick instead of the 24th overall pick, which is probably where his talent lies. So those two guys will be interesting. You just mentioned it, too, before we wrap up this pro day jaunt.
Yep.
Marvin Harrison Jr. not doing anything.
Don't care.
No combine. No pro day. Told all. Apparently, according to Breer, he asked teams that are in the range to pick him. Cardinals, like those types of teams. Do you need to see anything from me at my pro day? Do you care if I skip the pro day? And they all said, we don't care. We're going to trust the tape. We know who you are. I think a big reason why he wants to do this is he wants to get ready for his first year in the NFL. Right. He's football training. He's not training to run 40-yard dashes and vertical jumps and things like that. He's working on football stuff to get ready for his rookie season. I love that. Now, you can't do that for every prospect. Like, if you're not of that caliber.
No, there's a handful of guys that have the flexibility to do that.
Yeah, but I love the fact that he's more worried about performing as a rookie than he is running a fast 40-yard dash. I think that this is the opposite. I think a lot of people are, he doesn't want to compete, or what's he hiding, all these types of things. I think that he is trying to set a different trend of, I'm a top 5 pick. I'm probably the best overall player in this draft besides maybe Caleb, and I'm going to get ready for my rookie season because I want to win Rookie of the Year. Isn't that what you would rather than have him waste his time, preparing to run routes against air, or, going out and running a 40 or whatever? So I am with you totally. I don't care. I'm still not. And I don't really want the Patriots to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. I know that's one take I think both of us have that people hate, but the main thing is that I don't care if they end up picking him that he didn't run a 40. Like, I think we know Marvin Harrison Jr., what he's all about based off the film.
Yeah, no, it does. It'd be one thing, like, if he didn't weigh in. And I know I say that as a Jane Daniels guy, and if he doesn't weigh in at his pro day, I'm going to kind of be annoyed.
Yeah.
But he did the basic physical testing. Like you said, he asked the teams if they wanted to see anything. He doesn't need to. And we've heard guys all the time when we do the end-of-year interviews with rookies, it's like, what are you looking forward to in your first NFL offseason? They almost all say some form of, I spent all last offseason training for the combine and then having to learn this playbook and, moving and finding a place to live and, get all that. And they're like, I just want to be able to focus on football. Marvin Harrison's going to have to be able to do some of that. Like, he's going to have to find a place to live and all that. But
yeah,
he's actually, combine training and football training are two very different things. So the fact he's actually going to be able to focus on football, I think, is big.
All right, let's get to some of these phones. We don't have names on the phones today, so I'm just going to say, hello. How you doing? You're on the air. Hello? Oh, Michael, you there? Michael going once. All right, I'll put you on hold. Maybe you're just hanging out. All right. TC is at line 3. 2. CC in New Hampshire. What's up? Hello.
Hey, hello.
CC, you there?
Hello.
Yeah,
Go
can you
ahead.
hear us?
You're on the air.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on?
How you doing?
Yes, I wanted to ask about how many receivers you think we would take in this year's draft?
Okay, is that your only question?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for the call. How many receivers do you think they'll take in this draft? I was all for the double dip at first, but now that they brought Bourne back, they added Osborne, who we haven't talked about that we can talk about, and it does kind of seem like they're going to have to maybe keep Juju for the year. So,
Does it?
I mean, what are they going to do with Juju?
Got him.
For $12 million? I don't see it.
They have all that money.
I don't see it.
All right.
It's a lot of dead cap to eat. Maybe. It's possible. I'm not ruling anything out. Last year they traded Jonnu Smith, who I was blown away that somebody took him off their hands. But in general, Osborne, Bourne, Pop Douglas.
KJ Osborne's first name is Kendrick?
Kendrick Osborne, Kendrick Bourne,
Yeah.
Demario Douglas.
It's Kendrick Jr.
They could technically take 2 and make it 5 that way. But you have Juju, you have Rager, you have Tyquan Thornton. I think they have 9 receivers right now on the roster. If TJ Luther,
I'll tell you, hang on.
is technically on the roster.
They're only going to take 1 high because they don't have the snaps to take 2 high. Now
That's the way I feel.
they might take like a Trey Nixon kind of guy outside of the top 200, and
Yeah.
you bring him into camp and you see, and maybe he ends up on the practice squad, maybe he ends up on the back end of the roster. But I only think 1 legitimate year 1 prospect. It's Quan Baker, Kayshawn Boutte, Demario Douglas, TJ Luther, KJ Osborne, Jalen Rager, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tyquan Thornton. So it's 8 receivers. Oh, no, 9. And then Kendrick Bourne.
Kawan Baker.
Quan Baker, that's right.
I did not know he
Don't
was
you
on
forget
the
about
team.
Quan Baker. And then Trey Nixon's still a free agent. But
Yeah.
it's 9. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Kayshawn Boutte, right? But
Yeah.
that's just, look, they need,
Oh, the Kayshawn Boutte people are back.
I've seen that.
They're out.
You need a lot of receivers to get through the spring. Remember last year, they didn't have enough receivers
Yeah.
in
'cause,
minicamp?
Yeah, they had Kendrick was coming back from something.
Everybody was banged
and-
up. There's one day that
Yeah.
Juju, Parker, Bourne, and Thornton all in practice, and they had to move some guy to receiver. Remember they signed Ed Lee.
Yeah.
I don't think they want that to happen again. So
Yeah.
they could draft 2. They could even draft 3. But I don't think you're going to see more than 1 in the top 150. And maybe you're not getting beyond 2 in the top 200. Even a second in the top 200 to me is a lot. But 231, Bud Means. Hello.
We'll get to Bud Means someday.
Did you watch him?
No, I haven't watched
Come
him.
on. You were watching receivers all week.
I watched a bunch of receivers and I watched a bunch of tackles trying to get those done.
But you're not done.
I have 2.5 receivers to go. Bud Means gets half.
What do you mean he gets half?
Javon Baker.
If anything, he should get more time because you got to watch him at Louisiana Tech.
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
no, you do because Pitt's offense was.
Oh my god.
You got to watch him at Louisiana. We did the same thing with Addison. Remember, you watched Jordan Addison. He didn't get it. I said, watch him at Pitt, and it completely changed the evaluation.
A little bit.
Watch, you do remember that. You got to watch a couple games of Bub Means at Louisiana Tech. I would say watch him as a corner at Tennessee because he's a corner at Tennessee.
God.
But
Jeez.
I understand that's a bit far.
I'm only going to watch Bud Means at Louisiana Tech if they draft him. I'm telling you that right now.
But then you're not going to know what kind of player he is.
What do you
do
mean?
your job, Evan.
I can watch him on film at Pittsburgh and know what kind of player he is.
You don't know what Pitt's offense was.
Oh my God! And you want me to? Do you want me to put? You're putting me through this? Do you want me to do this? You want to waste my time?
I want you to do your job. Learn the player.
Okay.
He's a guy they very well might draft.
At 206 or whatever it is in the sixth
he's
round?
going to be. He might be on the team. Look, he checks all the boxes in terms of height, weight, athletic testing at the combine. He's right in that range of the Packers Elliott Wolf kind of receiver. His college positional coach is now on the Patriots staff.
The fact that this is what we're doing Bud Means.
Bub.
Bud. Bub Means.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing.
The Patriots might draft this guy. You don't only cover the team, you work for the team. You should know a thing or two about him. That's all I'm saying.
Bub Means.
Bub Means.
The
B-U-B.
savior.
B-U-B. Bub Means. I'm not saying he's the savior. I'm saying there's a real chance Patriots draft this guy. He checks a lot of boxes. You should be aware of him.
Okay.
You might like him.
Right.
I told you 2 years ago to watch Xavier Worthy. You didn't listen to me. And then look what happened.
Here we go. Yeah, you discovered Xavier Worthy.
No, I didn't. He was a 5-star prospect.
First round
you
pick.
could have been earlier on him.
But Barth, you discovered him. That was you.
No, I didn't. I'm just saying you could have figured him out a lot earlier. You could have saved yourself some time. You could have already had Bub Means watched by now.
Oh, my God. So Javon Baker is still on my list. I'm trying to track down some UCF tape. Malik Washington is still on my list. Not really a guy that I think they'll draft just because he's a lot like Pop Douglas, but he's still a guy that I think could sneak into the top 100. He had a great pre-draft process, great Shrine Bowl, great combine, you know, one of those types of guys. And then then on tackle side of things, I still try to find film on the Yale kid is like, you know, trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Well, you're looking for UCF film. Don't forget another guy combine checked a bunch of the like Elliott Wolf Packers boxes.
Yeah.
Tylen Grable.
Yeah. So Tylen Grable's on my tackle list.
Okay.
But I've watched everybody through Brennan Rice, which is, you know, the sure top 100 guys at receiver. And I've watched everybody through, you know, the Javon Fosters, Roger Rosengardens.
So like top 120 at tackle. Except the Yale kid.
So with the tackles, and I know we were talking about receivers, but I did want to do some recency bias. So let's clear the phone lines first, and then we'll do that. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to line 3 here, and it's Kenny from North Carolina. What's up, Kenny?
Hey, guys. Hey.
How's it going?
This is actually DC from New Hampshire. I think the lines got crossed a little.
Oh, okay. But, sorry about that.
We'll still take your call.
Awesome. All right. So first off, congrats on the ad read, and I just want to say I have a quick point and a quick question.
Okay.
Just to get this off my chest, I'm just getting so annoyed by the people who say we shouldn't draft a QB at 3 because we don't have the roster. I think it's such an annoying point you don't miss on a guy like Daniels or May. Hand the ball off 40 times a game or sit him. I don't think you miss out on a guy like that because the roster is quote unquote not ready. But anyways, my question is, this is kind of a pie in the sky. I'm just throwing a completely baseless trade scenario out there.
Okay.
But I'm not hearing DK Metcalf as a trade target. I think the Pats should be calling up Seattle, and I'm wondering if that name makes sense to throw into the wide receiver trade combo with like Higgins and Ayuk. All right, thanks guys. Love the show.
Thank you. Thanks for the call. I look, we all love DK Metcalf here. I mean, I love DK Metcalf. I thought that the league so just
botched.
I don't even know what the word is. They overreacted.
They overthought. He's your DeJuan Jones.
They overreacted to DK Metcalf where they were like, you know, the 3 cone, this, that, the other. No, there's only so many guys.
They thought he was too good to be true.
That are like 6'4", that run a 4.3 and do it with actual football translation.
Right.
DK Metcalf was one of my favorites in that draft. He was my wide receiver 1 all day, every day. So I'm a big DK Metcalf fan. For that reason, why is Seattle trading DK Metcalf? I don't really see that. That's the element of it that I'm not really understanding with some of these trade ideas that people are throwing out, not to pick on the caller at all, but
right.
DK Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk, Justin Jefferson, why are the Vikings, Niners, and Seahawks trading their star receivers?
Can I give you a take you're going to hate?
Probably.
Are we, and this isn't a take, this is more so a question. Like, this is a genuine question. Because I don't know that I believe this, but I'm wondering. Are we on the precipice of wide receivers becoming the new running backs? And what I mean by that is there's so much wide receiver talent in the league.
Yeah.
And there's so much coming in.
Yeah.
Do teams look at these wide receivers asking for $25 million a year and say, we'll go get another guy in the draft?
How did that work out for the Titans?
How did it work out for the Vikings?
Okay, that's a good example.
And
good counter.
So, like,
Good
again,
counter.
I
Fair.
don't necessarily, I don't love that idea. You know, I think the Vikings were idiots for that trade, but you're seeing it now. When's the last time a wide receiver got the contract without any sort of question? And it seems like every time one of these guys is up, he instantly becomes a trade. Even Jefferson, like, I think Jefferson's going to get the extension. He's a different, level. But DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, like, these come up. And in terms of, I'm not saying wide receivers won't matter. That's kind of how I wanted to set it up to set you off. But are we at a point where
let's not do that?
Coming up through the 7-on-7 leagues, the way the game's called now in terms of officials, the room these guys are given, the athleticism we're seeing at the position, and just the sheer number of players coming into the league who can play the position to high level, is the market watered down where teams will say, we'll go draft a guy. We'll have plenty of chances. We'll go draft a guy. We don't need it. We'd rather pay, because you look at the flip side, there's no tackles. There's no tackles. And if you have to give $25 million a year to a receiver or $25 million a year to a tackle, and you can only keep one, it makes more sense to pay the tackle, because that guy's going to be a lot harder to replace. So I'm not saying that means the Patriots can go out and trade for DK Metcalf, but I've because this class is so rare in terms of the talent, I've kind of found myself wondering, and we've talked about, adding a wide receiver for the quarterback the Patriots take, and I feel like some people have lost track of, in terms of the roster not being ready, this shouldn't be the roster through 2027. They're going to continue adding pieces. I know they didn't do it for the last guy, but they should continue adding pieces, and is there a chance to add a T. Higgins type guy in a future year? Is this class, and next year's class is pretty good too. I don't know that it's this deep, but it looks also like very, very good. Is the wide receiver talent going to become so oversaturated that teams just say, hey, well, DK Metcalf, 27, 28 years old, he needs a new contract. T. Higgins is older, he needs a new contract. All these guys, it's just going to be like, we'll go get a guy in the draft. We can do that. There's so many opportunities, we don't need to pay him.
Someone might, but someone's going to pay DK Metcalf.
No, I'm not saying all 32 teams are going to stop paying wide receivers. The running back thing isn't a perfect comparison, but
right, because the running back thing is nobody wants to pay running backs.
Right.
Whereas with the receivers, just to use DK, the Seahawks might look at DK Metcalf and think your thing. We trust our scouting. We're just going to go get the next DK Metcalf. But the Patriots will pay DK Metcalf, or Team at Y will pay DK.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Someone's going to pay DK Metcalf.
It will become the haves and have-nots. It will become, you have a team like the Patriots that needs a tackle, that can't afford to use that pick on a receiver, so they'll go pay somebody because they saved the money a tackle. Whereas Seattle, their whole roster is kind of together. They're going to have to start paying guys at the next level.
I look at I just look at DK Metcalf.
Do you get what I'm saying? It's kind of an abstract thought. Yeah,
I get what you're saying, and I do think that one point that first of all, I think that players like DK Metcalf and Brandon Ayuk, to me, are number one receivers. Like, you run your offense through this guy, like they're that right. level of player. And I don't think that the Niners have McCaffrey. So I guess maybe they have they're more in the Bengals category, but T. Higgins is the Bengals' number 2 receiver. So paying your number 1 receiver, Jamar Chase, $30 million a year, paying your quarterback, Joe Burrow, $60 or whatever the heck it is that they're paying him, and then paying T. Higgins $30 million a year doesn't make sense for the Bengals, because they already he's number 2 there.
Right.
DK Metcalf's number 1 in Seattle. Tyler Lockett's getting older. He's also not as good of a player anymore. DK Metcalf is their number 1 receiver. I would say Brandon Ayuk, as we get into this next couple years for the Niners, he's only 25, 26 years old. Debo's starting to slow down a little bit. George Kittle's starting to slow down a little bit. And McCaffrey's a running back. So those 3 guys, eventually this is going to be Brandon Ayuk's offense in San Francisco. So I look at those two guys a little bit differently, and I obviously look at Justin Jefferson differently.
Right.
He's the guy.
Justin Jefferson's his own thing.
Right. So if you're
like the Derrick Henry
that's why
of
I
receivers.
feel like the Bengals trading T. Higgins, you can see that because they already have. He's already the number 2 receiver there. So that's where I feel like the draft comes into play, to your point.
Yeah.
Where the Bengals can easily go out and draft Keon Coleman or easily go out and draft somebody else on day 2 that fits the same mold as T. Higgins, and they will just continue. The beat will go on in Cincinnati.
Right.
That I totally agree with. But if you're taking a Brandon Ayuk, if you're taking a DK Metcalf out of those offenses, you are expecting that draft pick to be an all-pro caliber receiver, a guy, a dude.
Right.
And I think that's asking a lot out of the draft, as good as the receivers are. The one thing I will say that I do definitely agree with you, though, the 7-on-7 influence is really big. It's really big. These players from basically the 5th or 6th grade on are becoming such natural pass catchers, not just receivers in terms of routes and things like that, but the way that they catch the ball because of how much they're doing it in these 7-on-7. Back in the day, when you played Pop Warner, right?
Yeah.
You played a little Pop Warner. Yeah. Back in the day when we were playing Pop Warner, it was all we just ran the ball.
Well, we also played Pop Warner in Massachusetts.
But the point is that nowadays, even at the high school level, when you put the pads on, these teams are running air raids. They're running spread systems. They're throwing the ball.
It goes beyond the pads. The idea is you learn essentially how to play the position without constantly getting jammed, without constantly getting your teeth knocked out, going over the middle, things like that. You just get used to running free, and at the next level, you basically just have to learn how to move through contact, and as that contact becomes less and less, it translates all the more. So how many receivers, there's a difference between really good and irreplaceable. How many receivers in the league are truly irreplaceable for their teams? Because I think that number has shrunk significantly in the last few years, and I think it's going to continue to shrink.
Well, I think that this is so. Justin Jefferson's irreplaceable in Minnesota.
Jefferson, yes. Jefferson, you're not going to go out and replace Justin Jefferson.
We both agree with that. San Francisco, I could see Kyle's ego being like, I can make anybody Brandon Ayuk.
That's what I'm saying. Brandon Ayuk's a very good receiver.
Really good.
But do you look at it, and to your point, and I would not do this if I'm them, but I'm saying this is what teams might start doing.
Yeah.
Is, all right, yeah, Debo, McCaffrey, Kittle, they're getting older, but they're not old.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect chance as a transition to give ourselves some flexibility. Let's draft the next guy now. And then as he comes up and gets ready, as he replaces Ayuk, we still have those guys. And then as those guys age out, this guy becomes the guy, whoever it is that we draft. So, yeah, I would argue Brandon Ayuk is not irreplaceable for San Francisco. That doesn't mean he's a great player. That doesn't mean it would automatically work. But I just think the idea of moving on to the next receiver rather than forcing yourself to pay the guy is going to become more and more attractive as the receiver talent just it becomes oversaturated.
And especially for offensive coaches like Kyle Shanahan, who are going to think, my system is really what's running the show
if
here.
He's doing it at quarterback, he'll do it at receiver, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think that Shanahan's one of those types of guys. I think to an extent, some of these, Andy Reid and Andy Reid disciple coaches, are going to be those types of guys. And I also think that, a guy like, maybe like a McVay. McVay, their two receivers are Cooper Kupp and Puka, who are both, I think Kupp was a 3rd round pick, and Puka was day 3, like a 5th round pick. So it's not like they went out and made these big splashes to get those guys either. So yeah, I'm with you that there's going to be certain teams that are going to trust their system, they're going to trust their scouting, and they're going to trust that they can go and get these guys at any point in the draft. And it makes me think too about this draft and how loaded it is at receiver. And I mentioned that list that I've watched basically through Brandon Rice at this point, which I think is 18 guys that are, for most people, surefire top 100 players.
Right.
18 guys for 32 teams. My guess is that every single team in this draft is going to try to jump in on that receiver carousel. It's just there's so many good receivers that you can just put, even if you have guys, you just put them on your roster for now.
Right.
And you figure it out later. Really quickly, side note, did you see your guy Bubba Watson at the Masters and his awful dinner menu for the Masters dinner? This is your thing.
John Rahm?
You should know this.
Are you talking about John Rahm? Are you talking about the...
No, it says Bubba Watson.
Oh, yeah, when he won? This isn't this year.
Oh.
Sorry.
No, this is
You want to get into this?
A little bit. Because I saw this last night and I was like, what like grilled chicken? Like that's what we're going to feed everybody at this like bougie dinner is grilled chicken?
How it works is whoever wins the Masters, right, the next year, the like night before the practice rounds start, there's a dinner thrown in the winner's honor, and it's only former Masters champions who attend.
Oh.
So it's like this prestigious thing, and the winner gets to pick the menu. And it's always fun to kind of go through the past menus and see what's there. And, I mean, Tigers are awesome. Tigers had some great ones. John Rahm's from Spain, so his meal's all, it's very,
tapas.
Spanish. Yeah, tapas is, everybody's making a big deal. It's the first time they're ever serving tapas at the Masters.
Love that.
I'm a big fan of Jordan Spieth's. He just served, like, straight barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
From
Texas.
Texas.
Can't go wrong with that.
But it's funny because, like, Tiger, I'm trying to pull him up. Tiger won so many times that his menus just started getting weird because it was just like, let me see what else I can do. So here, last time he won, tempura shrimp roll, so sushi appetizer, main course of prime steak or chicken fajitas, grilled vegetables, refried beans, Mexican rice, and then desserts were flan, churros, and chocolate ice cream.
I had sushi last night. I like sushi.
I like sushi.
I'm a big sushi guy.
One year he did a porterhouse steak. One year he did cheeseburgers, chicken sandwiches, French fries, and milkshakes.
See, I gotta admit, like I feel like if I was picking, that would be me.
So
like
that's
I
the
would
thing.
just pick like the kids buffet at a bar mitzvah. You know, like get the chicken fingers out, get the burgers, get the fries, get the mott sticks. Like I feel like that's the way to go.
Well, that was after he won in '97, so he was still a kid at that point. He was
Everybody really deep down wants that. Like people are oh no, I gotta have the porterhouse, I gotta have the fancy meal. Deep down, you all just want some mott sticks and chicken fingers. Like don't lie to yourself.
No, Tiger Woods' menus are all, well, he was 23 when he picked this, but cheeseburgers, chicken sandwiches, French fries, and milkshakes. The next time when he won, it was porterhouse steak and chicken with sushi as an appetizer. And then the next year, because he went back
that's a weird combination.
The next year when he went back to back, he did the same thing, but he added mashed potatoes and chocolate cake.
Okay. Well, look, if you win that much, you get to pick.
We'll do this off the air. I'll send you the list of the Masters. Yes.
So why is the Bubba Watson one making the rounds just because it was awful?
Because it was just, people just kind of made fun of him. It was very boring. It was a Caesar salad and grilled chicken. It was like, I can make that at home. Like, you'd think you'd want something. Guys will do like this really intense seafood or, the international guys always do something.
From their homeland.
Yeah, from their country.
Yeah.
Except Phil Mickelson, too, always does very boring. It's always just some sort of barbecue, whatever.
All right. Well, before we segue into recency bias,
I'm going to send you the list. I want a whole breakdown of the Masters menus from you.
Okay. All right. Alex, a week from Sunday is a day that neither one of us know what it is, but we're hopping toward it, and it is Easter Sunday. And there's no time like the present to get party ready with Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop tens of on-trend dining sets with plenty of style and storage for all your brunching needs. And while you're here, complete the look with seasonal accents and outdoor styles made for warm weather hosting. Only at Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. We have a Bob's Discount Furniture couch.
I got some Bob's Discount Furniture stuff.
We like it. It's one of those that reclines, with
that's nice.
It's got a motor in there. Yeah. Really cool. All right. Anyways, let's take the rest of these calls. Let's clear the board here. We're going to go to line 1. Do we know who line 1 is? Is this Cameron from North Carolina, line 1? Hello? Hello? Looks like we're having an issue maybe with line 1. Line 2. Let's see. Let's get you on the air. How you doing, line 2? Colleen, you there?
Hello?
Hey, Colleen.
Okay, awesome. My question is about tackles. So, obviously, Joe Alt and Olu are left tackles, but we're probably going to get a quarterback. But we really need a left tackle more so than a right tackle, even though I know you guys want to go back to guard. Anyway, most of the next tackles on the board are right tackles. And so I'm wondering if any of them have the potential to switch to left, or if we're basically just, we need Kingsley Suamaitai, or we don't get a left tackle. Okay, thank you.
Great question, Colleen, because that's a perfect transition into recency bias as well. So,
all right, don't let me in with Evan, though, wanting Onwenu to play guard.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
You're
I'm not
kidding.
opposed to it.
You're kidding about it.
I don't need it. No, I don't need. I'm here. Here's my thing with Onwenu playing tackle, Evan.
Okay.
He has spent his first 4 years essentially is a positional nomad.
Yep.
In 3 of his first 4 seasons, he's played multiple spots. In his first 2 seasons, he played 4 spots. He played left guard, right tackle, and he played that 6 offensive line role.
Yep.
He's not really been able to train at any specific position,
Well,
and they keep trying to start him as a guard.
He was supposed to be training at guard.
Well, but so here's my thing. I don't think he's that bad of a tackle.
He's not a bad tackle.
Right. The drop-off is not... I don't think the drop-off is that... He's a better guard than tackle, but I don't think the gap is that wide. And if you actually give him an offseason to train as a tackle, lose a little bit of weight, work on his footwork, he might be able to close the gap. So that's my thing about playing him at tackle. If they were to play him at guard all summer, essentially what they did last year, play him at guard. Oh, he didn't practice all summer last summer. But
yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Keep him
off-season.
at guard all offseason, and then in like week 3, be like, crap, this isn't working. You got to kick outside. Then, yeah, at that point, stop screwing with the guy's development, leave him at guard. I've said this for 3 years with him. Pick a position and leave him there. Don't keep moving him around.
So here's my concern.
If you let
with
him
it.
develop at tackle, you might be surprised that he actually gets better at tackle.
Oh no!
What a concept!
No, I have no doubt in my mind that Mike Onwenu is a serviceable tackle right now, and could get it into an even better echelon of tackle down the road. My concerns with it are a couple things. One, it feels so much like the past couple years with Belichick, where we're playing guys out of position. And why are we playing guys out of position? We're playing guys out of position out of team necessity because we're not plugging holes. We're doing it because we have to. And I also feel like it's another element of it is like positional value. So we just paid this guy $19 million a year. It makes more sense to be paying a tackle $19 million a year than it does paying a guard for $19 million a year. And the fact that you don't have a better right tackle on your roster, and the fact that he's getting paid like that, and that projects better at tackle from a cap standpoint, those are all the wrong reasons to play him at tackle. If the right reason to play him at tackle is that you feel like he's a really good tackle, which maybe they do. Maybe they do.
What if you think he can become a really good tackle?
He checks a lot more tackle boxes than you would think.
Right.
Main one being he actually does have pretty long arms. Like he checks the arm length measurable. I think he's got 34-inch arms.
I'll find it.
So he does check that box pretty. He clears it pretty well. So it's not that he doesn't have the length. It's not that he doesn't have the ability to do these types of things. My fear is we did this. We have to be
34.5-inch arms at 6'3".
Yeah, so he's short for a tackle, but he's got the length to play this position.
I wouldn't say he's short. He's just not tall.
No, he's short. 6'3" is short.
Is that all right?
Yeah, for tackles.
I'd say shorter. I wouldn't say he's short.
It's short.
Okay.
Like tackles, you'd be surprised. Like like the median is like 6'5", 6'6".
I generally think like 6'4".
Yeah,
okay.
no,
all right.
there
So
are a lot
I
of-
just need to adjust my thing.
There
Okay,
are
fair enough.
a lot of tall tackles.
I guess I never really thought much about tackle height.
Because it's not important. It's
Right.
really not important.
Low man wins.
But the problem is that we would kill Bill for this. That we're playing guys out of position, where guys are moving around, like all this type of stuff. This is what we're doing again.
But those are two different things.
Playing guys out of position. How often do we talk about that with Bill in the last couple years?
But playing a guy out of position and moving a guy around are two different things. I don't necessarily think Onwenu's out of position at right tackle.
I think he is.
He doesn't look out of position at right tackle. Let me phrase it that way.
He does at times.
Well, if you give him a whole offseason to work on it, it's the moving him around.
How did he look against Khalil Mack?
Give him an offseason to work on it. He showed me enough that
all right,
if you actually let him develop. You were at camp, excuse me, you were at camp in 2020. I wasn't. But I remember you telling me he didn't play a single snap of tackle that whole camp, right?
No.
And he'd never played a snap of tackle in college. And they threw him out there week 1 as a rookie, and he held his own. The next year, they plan on penciling him in at right guard. They move him around the whole season. He played 4 different
PFF
spots.
for this.
Why?
Because they grade him out well at tackle.
Maybe he's good at tackle, Evan. Maybe he's just good at tackle. You don't get to start hating the nerds now because it helps your argument.
I've always
no.
been anti PFF grade with offensive linemen. You know that.
No,
Always.
Corners.
No, offensive linemen, and they are all over the place with their linemen.
I've
talked to enough people that I trust on this in my own eyes, but like also other people that I trust on this, that he has some deficiencies at the tackle
Okay.
spot. He has no deficiencies
You
at
realize
guard. He's a perfect guard.
never gotten rep there, really,
Do you
right?
really
In terms,
think
outside of a
you
competitive
think
setting?
on an island a 340-pound person is going to be able to mirror and match an elite pass rusher on an island?
Who says he's going to keep playing it at 340 pounds?
Oh, okay. So
Maybe
now
he
we're
drops
gonna
some
now
weight.
we're gonna sap all of his play strength out of the way too. Cool. So now we're gonna be a lean Mike Onwenu who no longer.
I'm not saying he's going to lose 40 pounds. I'm not saying he's going to lose 40 pounds.
Okay.
Trent Brown plays tackle at 370. Okay.
What did we hear about the Browns and DeJuan Jones? DeJuan Jones.
Everybody says they can't move.
DeJuan Jones. There was concerns there about them being able to run outside zone to his side, right? Because he doesn't have the foot speed for it. So they stopped doing it. That's why they changed a lot last year. I have the same fears with Mike Onwenu that they're going to want to be an outside zone team. They've made that very clear. I think that's a big reason why Antonio Gibson is here, is because they need more speed out in the backfield.
Drill footwork with him this offseason. Look, I'm not saying it's definitely going to work out. I'm just saying if you're going to play the guy out there, because I think one way or the other he was going to end up playing right tackle in 2024, because that's seemingly what always happens. He just keeps ending up back there because, Evan, they're trying to play a guy.
This is something that we fairly criticize Bill for, and I'm not going to change just because now it's a different.
I criticized him last year for not playing Onwenu at guard. I'm being consistent.
I'm telling you that we used to criticize Bill for this type of stuff. We used to criticize him for playing guys out of position. We used to criticize him for trying to plug a hole somewhere and creating a hole in another place, and that's exactly what they're doing. Are you confident in the combination of Cole Strange, City So, Antonio Maffey, Jake Andrews, one of those interior guys hitting? Because they need two of them now to hit.
They have to be. Like, you just – but you use all those top 150 picks on guards last year when you had other needs. To turn around and not play those guys, and I know it's a different
they're going to play them.
Regime.
It's just whether or not they're going to succeed or not is the question.
You got to find this is what I would get after Bill for, is not playing the kids, is drafting these guys,
well, they played
sitting them for 3 years, stunting their development. Right, but I'm saying, like,
they played City and they played Cole Strange, but he can't stay on the field.
Well, you got to. I also think Nick Leverett's a sneaky good signing.
Nick Leverett is a sneaky good signing because he might be the Ted Karras of this all.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he might have to play.
Let me put it, and this is the conversation we always have with Mike Onwenu. I trust that group more than I trust Connor McDermott, Vidarian Lowe.
Okay, but do you trust
Tyrone Wheatley,
okay,
Chuck Okorafor playing on the left side? I trust him on the right side. I don't trust him on the left side, which seems like it's the plan.
I would have rather them play Chuck Okorafor at right tackle for the time being.
But you still don't have a left tackle. You still don't have a left tackle.
You still don't have a left tackle now. I would rather them have gone right to left. You know, Chuck's Onwenu, obviously. David Andrews.
Yeah.
Let Cole Strange and City So battle it out for left guard. Best man wins. And then you draft a left tackle. I would much rather have done that.
And that can still be it. And
maybe that's like my priors about Cole Strange. I know some people feel like Cole Strange has played well. I am not one of those people. He played well for a stretch last year and then blew out his knee immediately. He couldn't practice last year in camp because of injuries. He started slow because of that. He was not good his rookie year. I don't want to hear that he was good his rookie year. He wasn't good as a rookie. They benched him multiple times. Anytime he faced anybody of upper echelon competition, like a DeForest Buckner, like a Quinnen Williams, he got benched his rookie season. So he's another guy that I look at as a big time question mark. He's not an entrenched starter at left guard right now. He's a guy that's earning his role.
But that can happen one way or the other. I have no problem.
This line is a mess. They have a lot of work to do.
It is. I have no problem with them giving Onwenu a real shot at right. And look, maybe it doesn't work. They clearly don't mind moving him around.
I don't mind them giving him a shot, and I don't mean to come off as like criticizing the one good lineman other than David Andrews that we know that they have.
Yeah.
Onwenu at right tackle, if they really view it that way, then fine. We'll see what happens.
Onwenu at right tackle scares me less than Chuck Okorafor at left tackle.
But I don't know why Chucks would have had to play left.
They're two separate things. I'm just saying, like, moving Onwenu to right tackle,
as it stands,
to me, isn't the biggest move they're making on the offensive
as it stands right now,
line this year.
Unless you're counting on on one of these draft picks that
Yeah.
Colleen mentioned, like a Kingsley Suamatia or some of these guys we're going to talk about. As it stands right now, your starting left tackle in week 1 is Chuck Okorafor.
Right. That worries me more than Michael Onwenu at right tackle.
What a mess. Like, this is, you cannot put a rookie quarterback out there behind this line.
If Onwenu works out at right tackle, I actually think it kind of starts coming. If Onwenu works out at right tackle and you assume the battle at left guard leads to a good starter, you're in good shape because you'll have, if you can get, a starting caliber left guard, right? And you'd think between 3 or 4 guys they'll find somebody. David Andrews. I think we both agree City So is a pretty good player.
Especially
he's
as a
your
run
right
blocker.
guard. Right, he's probably your right guard. And then if Onwenu works out, and there's some ifs in there, but I'm saying like that's 4 or 5, and you're in good shape. And I don't think any of those ifs are that extreme.
My concern is pass pro.
And you still have to figure out the left tackle, obviously.
I think that
you
line,
have to do that no matter what.
I think that line, especially on the right side, is actually a really good run blocking offensive line.
And I think that's what they care more about.
City and Mike Onwenu together last year on those double teams and stuff like that was excellent.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what they want to do. That's
okay, but I'm not putting Jaden Daniels behind that line. With a right tackle that has a short corner and a rookie at left tackle, or a Chuck Okorafor playing out of position at left tackle. I'm not doing it. And then maybe that's the plan. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Poor Jacoby Brissett is going to be a sacrificial lamb. And he's going to go out there and get his head caved in. Like, maybe that's what the plan is, and fine, until everybody else is sort of ready for the rookie to step in. Maybe they draft, one of these guys we're going to talk about at tackle, and one of those guys by week 8 is a lot better than he was in week 1,
right.
and now it's safer to put the rookie behind the line. But on top of the risking injury, we're also risking the Mac Jones thing of him getting sped up and happy feet and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And some of these guys, Jaden Daniels, I think is probably the calmest in the pocket out of all these guys. But Drake May already had issues with that last year.
We had a bad offensive line.
Right. And it did impact his footwork, and it did impact his play overall. So I just have a lot of concerns about the line still. Talking about some of these tackles, though, that, Colleen mentioned, some of these guys, like we were talking about Latham earlier. Talisi Fugawa is also a right tackle. Tyler Guyton played right tackle in college, but
he can definitely play both.
He's a very athletic guy, so I think that he can play left. Jordan Morgan's a right tackle.
I still think he's a guard.
Might be a guard. Fontenot from Washington is a left tackle, but some people think he's a guard as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. And then you get into the Suamatia. Kingsley Suamatia, who's a pure left tackle.
Yeah.
All the athletic traits as a left tackle. But now we're starting to get into some of the guys that are going to need some development. Like, these guys are not ready necessarily week 1. Your boy Patrick Paul, left tackle.
Yep.
Has some experience, but it still has some of his own issues. Then the rest of these guys, Blake Fisher, right side. The one guy that is interesting maybe at left tackle, Javon Foster from Missouri. Pure left tackle. Christian Jones, right. Roger Rosengarten played right because they wanted him to play right, not because necessarily he had to play right.
He's a right tackle blindside protector.
Correct.
So, and everybody who's saying, oh, he was a right tackle in college, but for a lefty quarterback, so he's really left tackle. That's not really how that works, because the movements are still all the same for you. It's the quarterback that's different, and that's the big thing when you try to move a tackle from one side to the other. At guard, you're used to coming out of your stance both ways, going left, going right. You're not doing that nearly as much as tackle, and it's kind of like writing with the other hand when you go from one side to another. I think people underrate just how hard it is being a true swing tackle. So just because Rosengarten was a right tackle who blocked for a lefty quarterback doesn't necessarily mean that he can just... Now, I think he can make the switch to left tackle because I think he's a very smart football player.
And he's a really good athlete.
But, it is going to be a transition. It's not... Being a right tackle for a lefty quarterback doesn't automatically mean you can be a left tackle for a righty quarterback. There's still a pretty sizable adjustment in there.
I agree. So, out of these guys, this next tier, which when you start to really think about, okay, let's say they go quarterback and let's say they go receiver with their top 2 picks, and they still don't have a tackle yet.
Right.
So you're getting into Patrick Paul, Blake Fisher, then some of these...
Kieran, the kid from Yale.
Yeah, the kid from Yale, who I haven't watched yet, so I'll put that caveat on this. Roger Rosengarten, Christian Jones...
I think these are 2 different tiers.
Javon, I don't.
No, I think they are. I think
Roger Rosengarten is the best out of all these guys.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he's going to go much later than some of those other guys.
I don't think so. Mel Kiper mocked him in the first round in his last mock draft.
All right.
He's really talented. And I think the thing that you love about Rosengarten, on top of the athletic ability, which is all over his film, I mean, he's just as twitchy as Fotenu in some ways. Like, he explodes out of his stance, really, really smooth mover. Redirect skills are really, really good to mirror rushers, inside counters, things like that. Zone blocking scheme, fits right in on that. If you want him to move laterally on the line of scrimmage, he has two concerns with him. One is size. He's undersized for the position. Not Isaiah Wynn undersized, but undersized. And two, because he's undersized, he lacks play strength. And anchor and ability to move guys is a problem.
And you saw that in the national championship.
But if you put him in a I think the bigger problem with it too is that he overcompensates for the fact that he's smaller. He's a really, really aggressive setter in his pass sets. Like, he comes out and he comes right after you. He has an attack mindset. And a lot of these more well-versed, well-schooled pass rushers, they'll see him come out of his stance like that in the vertical set, and they'll be ready for it, and they'll have an inside move ready for it, or they'll have something to get him off balance. He's going to have to be able to hit an NFL weight room, add some sand to the lower half, be able to anchor a little bit better, and be a little bit more patient. Like, he's very, very aggressive because he tries to do that to make up for the fact that he's not 6'6" with 35-inch arms. So, very talented, though, and very athletic. I was really impressed with Blake Fisher. I think Blake Fisher has a lot of tools, and he's not even 21 years old yet. So a lot of his issues with Fisher are technical, things that can be coached and fixed, I think, technique-wise. And he's so young that he's going to have the runway to be able to figure that out in the league. And he's got all of the prerequisites of, athletic ability, play strength. I mean, there's tons of pancakes on his run-blocking film. Impressive guy. I went back and forth with Javon Foster. I think that there are some elements of his game that are good. I thought his Ohio State film in the Cotton Bowl was really good against JT, whatever his last name is. Going to be a top...
The Ohio State guy.
Yeah, top pass rusher next year in next year's class. The one thing that worried me a little bit about Foster is that he's very choppy with his movements. He's a very disjointed mover in his pass sets. And what ends up happening is that when you're choppy with your feet like that, there's times when you're set where both feet are off the ground at the same time. And these NFL rushers are going to time that up, and they're going to just get hand right in your chest, and you're just going to have nothing. Right. You're going to fall back into the quarterback. So quick redirects, quick counters, speed to power. When you're a choppy guy like that kind of like hoofs out of his stance like that, guys that in the NFL are going to watch that on film, and they're going to time you up, and then you're going to be in trouble. So I think Javon Foster has a lot of foot speed. I think he has a lot of play strength, but he's very, very segmented in his movements, and I have concerns about that. But he's a pure left tackle. I think we both really like Christian Jones.
Just a lot of penalties.
Big man, but yeah, somebody that ducks his head into contact can get overextended and start grabbing people. But really good run blocker, probably more of a pure right tackle. So those are the guys that I've watched recently. I would say that how I'd rank them. Rosengarten first. I think Rosengarten, the biggest thing too with him is that I just really love linemen that you can tell are just offensive linemen. Like, it's a really unique position. It's not a natural skill to be able to play offensive line. So when you have guys that you can tell just get the position and are kind of like bred in it and understand the nuances of it and aren't just athletes trying to throw their weight around, that's Rosengarten. I think that usually translates pretty well to the next level. He's gonna have to hit the weight room. Like, go do some squats. Go get on the squat machine, right? But him, Blake Fisher, I think is a pretty solid number 2 option, even though he plays on the right side. And then I do think that there's a gap between the next tier of
I think
Foster's.
Patrick Paul's still.
Patrick Paul's good. I don't know where to put Patrick Paul in that group. I maybe a little bit ahead of where I just ranked him. I kind of forget about Patrick Paul because I think he's like in the middle of the Kingsley Suamaitai group in this group. Like, he's might be a tier ahead of these guys. But he's a 3rd round guy to me that will get drafted probably in the 2nd round because he's a tackle.
With the size, with the athletic, again, I say this about a couple of guys every year, right? 6'7", 330, 36-inch arms, legitimate mobile athlete for somebody his size.
Yeah.
And maybe he's not the most technically skilled, But if you can't get something out of a guy giving you those raw tools, I don't know what you're looking at. If you look at that guy and you don't see the bigger picture, I think you're missing out. And I think there are going to be teams that just, again, look at it that way because he doesn't have the floor that maybe some of those other guys do because, again, he is very raw. But those tackles that just can envelop rushers, right? That they don't necessarily pancake them. They don't necessarily like get in this whole movement with them. They just kind of swallow them up, and that's it, and they disappear. Patrick Paul can be that kind of tackle, and I think those tackles are incredibly effective. So I'm still a big fan of his. I still think that with the right coaching, he can be, a top-tier tackle in the NFL.
I think he's got that chance too. His run blocking needs to improve a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of technique, and his hand placement and his pass pro needs to improve.
But that's all coachable.
I think it's coachable, but I think the one thing that I worry about with his run blocking is leverage. Like, he might just not have the flexibility in the lower half to establish leverage and create leverage, I guess I should say. That is tough. Like, when you're that tall and you're that heavy, to be able to really get down and create leverage points with your strikes is difficult to do. And guys like that tend to have those issues. Now, if you're a Trent Brown and you're 380 pounds, then you're just so freaking big that you're going to move guys anyways.
But that's the thing. I think that Paul's kind of in that category.
Maybe.
Because his play strength is tremendous.
He's a strong guy, and the fact is that he doesn't play to his strength, his natural strength, because of his technique, which is unfortunate, right? You look at in pass pro, there's no reason that somebody should be able to run through Patrick Paul's chest. There's no reason that should be able to happen. But it does happen sometimes because of his hands. His hands are low or they're wide. He has a low and wide hand carriage, so he's exposing his chest all the time. So guys just get right inside of him and push him backwards. He's 6'7", 300 and whatever pounds. He shouldn't be getting bull rushed, right? Like that shouldn't happen at that size.
But again, to me, like that's coachable.
It is.
So I don't worry about it as much.
I agree. All right, so I'll restart because I always forget about Patrick Paul because he's somebody I watched earlier on. So I'd say Patrick Paul, Roger Rosengard, and Blake Fisher are probably 1, 2, 3 in the first tier. I would then say that there is a little bit of a gap before you get to the Javon Fosters and the Christian Joneses.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you before when I was like, this is two different tiers.
Well, but they're going to go in the same, let's call it 25 to 40 picks, I would say.
I think Paul will go higher.
He could get the tackle bump.
Yeah, I think he's going to.
He's a third-round guy to me, but he could get the tackle bump.
Because of the drop-off you mentioned, I think there's this, if you miss on Patrick Paul, you're missing on a whole level of player. Yeah. And so somebody's going to rush up and get him so they don't have to dip into that next tier.
It helps his case that he's a left tackle.
Yeah.
And it helps his case that he's maybe a little bit better than some of these other guys, that it's worth taking the left tackle in the second round versus waiting till round 3, round 4 to take one of these guys. But the one thing I will say that I have started to come around on is, all right, let's say they go quarterback at 3, they go receiver with the 34th pick, figure out maybe they move up a couple spots, but whatever. The 2 first picks off the board for the Patriots are quarterback and receiver. I do think that there's enough talent at 68 and at 103 to double dip at tackle.
Okay.
I think that a guy like a Patrick Paul could be there at 68. Yeah. I think a guy like Blake Fisher is worth maybe considering at 68. And if Mel Kiper's right, then Roger Rosengarten is. I'm not dumb and don't know what I'm watching because apparently some people are telling Mel Kiper he could be a first-round pick. So you have those 3 guys, and then maybe you do take a Javon Foster or the Yale kid or somebody like that has some upside, but in the 4th round.
Rosengarten being a first-round pick is going to bug me just because, and I like Rosengarten. I think he's a good player. He did not have a good national championship. Michael Penix is not going to be a first-round pick because of the national championship. But Rosengarten gets passed?
I don't think Rosengarten's going in the first round.
I don't think he is either. That thing's just stupid.
When you watch him on film, though, there's first-round caliber traits with his athleticism and his explosiveness, but I don't see it either.
So I'll say this. I don't think there's that much of a drop-off, to your point, from the early 4th-round guys, or the early day 3 guys, I should say, the Javon Fosters, the Christian Joneses, to Frank Crum, Tylen Grable. Yeah, that kind of thing. So at that point,
those guys are definitely better athletes than those 2.
But that's what, when he was in Green Bay, that's what Wolf wanted.
I think
they would go a little smaller.
That's kind of why
to get a little more athleticism.
That's kind of why I'm bringing up Rosengarten, because we haven't talked about him in a ton.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys, super athletic, a little bit undersized, but if you're a zone blocking team, if they're truly going to be an outside zone team, then Rosengarten fits that to a T. Yeah. And I think he could even fit it on the left side.
I mean, I've said this before. I think Washington's offense last year is kind of similar to what the Patriots are going to run with Van Pelt. It's collegeized, I guess, to make up a word, but
that's a good word.
There's some core similarities between the two.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the phones. We're going to go to line 3 here. Jules, do we know who's on line 3? Who?
Hello?
Hey, Jasper, you there?
Hey.
Yeah, hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for taking my call. Let me turn it off speaker.
No problem.
I got a statement and then a little question. To Robert and Jonathan, I just want to say, stop making the guys do the ad reads. It's undignified.
That's how we get
kind of
paid,
seems ominous
Jasper.
to me in terms of just how they project.
How many podcasts don't have ads?
Future revenue.
Okay, let's
right,
move on from that point, please.
Cool story, Hansel.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, love you guys, and I think you deserve better. My question is, and it's a real sicko question.
Love it.
Is there a defensive player you would take at 34 if they fell?
Fair question. Thanks for the call, Jasper. I didn't mean to be harsh. We do the ad reads for a good reason. What's he got?
Can we get in a recency? Because I have a recency thing here.
Go ahead. I have me. I'm ignoring defense in this draft. But
this is not a player I have recently. This is not a guy. This is a guy I've been aware of.
Okay, just give the take.
But hang on. I've recently really come around to the idea of the Patriots drafting him.
Yeah.
And DeMarcus Covington was at his pro day yesterday.
T'Vondre Sweat. He is a monster.
He's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
And 15 years ago, Evan,
yeah,
he'd be a top 10 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Teams don't use nose tackles the way they used to, but he is 370 pounds, and he plays with the power you would expect a guy who weighs 370 pounds to play with. You cannot single block T'Vondre Sweat. It's just not going to happen. And I think if you put him in the middle of this defense, next to Christian Barmore, next to Matthew Judon, next to Josh Uche, you are going to free up so many opportunities for this pass rush. And if Christian Gonzalez is the guy you think he is, and you can get a really, solid number 2 corner, you can kind of get back to what the defense was in the, 2016 to 2018 range, where you're sending the house more often than not at the quarterback. And T'Vondre Sweat would help you do that. Now, he's not a guy that's going to play a ton. He's not going to be like a 60, 70% usage rate guy.
Yeah.
But he is somebody that the offense is going to have to account for every time he is on the field. And I don't think I'd take him at 34, but he may fall because, again, it's one of those things where NFL teams overthink things because of the weight. If he makes it down to 68 and they feel really good about what they did with their first 2 picks, and maybe they've identified a tackle at 103 that they think is the answer, they could do a lot worse, and people would lose it, but they could do a lot worse than drafting T'Vondre Sweat, because I think he would unlock a lot for this defense. You can rip that take apart.
No,
I'm sure you want to.
No, because I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and his pass rush at the Senior Bowl was pretty solid.
He's an athlete. They had him play. They were throwing him passes in the red zone.
Yeah, no,
Texas,
his one-on-one pass
games.
rush at the Senior Bowl was enough that, no, you're not going to play him on 3rd down.
No.
But on 1st and 2nd down, when that play action converts to a pass from a run, can he still get after the quarterback? Can he still push the pocket a little bit? Yeah, I think he's got some of those abilities.
I don't want to go this far because this is such a lofty comp. But, I'm not saying he would be Vince Wilfork, but he's Vince Wilfork-ish in his approach. And I think he can have the kind of impact on a defense, because Vince Wilfork didn't fill up the stat sheet. We all know that. He wasn't this monster statistics compiler.
Yeah.
But he made everybody around him better. He piled up the statistics for the defense. And I don't know. I think T'Vondre Sweat, maybe not at that level. Vince Wilfork's a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to just label a guy a Hall of Famer right now. But if they're going to stick to a similar defensive scheme than the one they ran under Belichick, having a guy like T'Vondre Sweat can be a game changer.
Yeah.
So if they're going to go defense in the top 100, I don't like maybe some of the corners, depending on who falls, just because I think it's a need. I don't know that
I got a name for you.
I don't know that there's a defensive player. Actually, I can think of one other one, but
I think we might be on the same page on that one.
Is he a national champion?
No.
I don't know if there's a defensive player that would be a better pick for this team in the top 100 than T'Vondre Sweat. The only other guy I'd put up there is Mike Sanders still.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Good player.
Yeah.
Good
really
parents,
good player.
too.
Local kid,
nice kid.
Plays everywhere. Plays freaking everywhere on the defense.
Yeah, he's a nickel, but he can play multiple spots in the secondary.
He was an outside corner. He was a receiver.
I think he's a nickel at the next level. But a really good one. And there's like a million good nickels in this class.
Yeah.
It's too bad the Patriots have like 7 of their own.
That's all they have.
Yeah, because they have there's a ton of good slot corners.
Sanders still also is probably going to go higher than would be justifiable. Like, I could see Sweat getting to 68. I don't think Sanders still's getting that far.
Okay, so I'll give you my name.
Yeah.
Cam Kitchens.
See, I think they might be able to get him at 103. But yes, you know how I feel about Cam
Kitchens. Brian Branch was not as bad.
Yeah.
Athletic profile wise at the combine as Cam Kitchens had a really bad day at the combine. Really bad day. I think his RAS is like 3.5 or 4 out of 10.
He got the thumbs down bomb.
Bad.
Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, I trust the film with him. He's a football player. Same way as with Brian Branch. And I think that there's something that gets super underrated, especially at that position, is anticipation.
And instincts, yeah.
In instincts. Like, he's got ball hawking skills. He's got anticipation. He's got ability to read routes. He's got an ability to sit on that perch in center field and just see things happen before they happen. And that allows him to play faster than he times in shorts and a T-shirt. I think Cam Kitchens is going to be a good NFL player. Alonzo Highsmith connection. Knows him really well.
Got a little more intel there.
Knows him really well. It maybe to the point where Alonzo Highsmith knows something happened and he had a bad day. He wasn't feeling well. Something happened with I'm not speculating. I'm just saying.
Alonzo Highsmith told him to tank it so the Patriots could get him later.
Crap happens, in people's lives that make you have a bad day. Maybe that's what happened to him at the combine. Maybe Alonzo Highsmith goes into the room with Elliot Wolf and pounds the table and says, "Trust me this is a football player. This is just because he's not an athlete doesn't mean he can't play football." I'm all in on Cam Kitchens for them because he's the free safety. Like, he's the missing piece in that secondary.
Yeah, you watch him, you see flashes of Devin McCourty. I'm not saying he'll be Devin McCourty, but it kind of like T'Vondre Sweat with Vince Wilfork. How cool would it be if they need offense, but how cool would it be if they added a Vince Wilfork comp and a Devin McCourty comp in the same draft? People would riot, but they'd get 2 damn good football players.
I think people would riot about Sweat a little bit just because of
370-pound defense.
It's archaic.
Yeah.
But I think smart people, and I don't mean to pick on everybody, but everybody gets so sensitive with what I say.
I'm really curious your thoughts on Sweat, because this is the thing that you usually poo-poo
No,
and shoot down.
I mean, he was really good at the Senior Bowl, and the whole thing at the Senior Bowl was, is he going to be able to give you anything in the pass rush? And it's not going to be third down. It's not going to be 2-minute.
Right.
But
he's not Christian Barmore.
Right, but is he going to be able to give you anything in the pass rush on first and second down? Teams are getting so much more aggressive on early downs nowadays, especially with play action. Is he going to be able to give you anything in those areas? And I think he proved that he will be able to give you something that will allow him to play a 2-down role significantly. Play almost every single down in the 2-down role, within that role. But yeah, I think Cam Kitchens is a guy that would really complete this defense. I think it gives you that ball hawk over the top, type of player at safety.
So I don't know that this is a player comp, but it's kind of it's a comparison, I guess, because he didn't. The explosiveness is what people everybody knew. Like, he's not a track star, right? Nobody was expecting him to run a 4.3, but he didn't have a good vertical. He didn't have a good 10-second split. Would you consider Brandon Spikes an explosive player as an NFL player?
Well, downhill for sure.
But would you say he's like an explosive athlete in terms of
twitchy?
Yeah. He tested horribly.
Oh yeah, no.
In the explosive testing at the combine. So this, it happens.
He's not an Olympian. He's a football player.
Right. He's not a top tier percentile athlete, but I think he's more than functional in terms of athleticism. He had a bad day, but I wonder if teams are going to be out enough they can get him at 103. But yeah, that's another good name. I would say Sweat. 34 still to me should be an offensive player.
Yeah.
If you get to 68 and you feel really good about what you did in the top 50, Tavondre Sweat, Cam Kitchens, Mike's. I would still take Sandersville. I know they have a bunch of nickels, but they also have a bunch of guys that can play a lot of positions, and you can get creative. And he's also just like culture guy, leader guy. I do think that should be some sort of emphasis on that. Which, by the way, same thing goes for Sweat and Kitchens.
Yeah.
Sandersville to me is the kind of thing where, like, he's a really good football player, and he can do a lot of things. So even if you don't have an exact role for him in mind right now, you bring him in, you'll figure something out. He's going to help your team.
All right. Hey, Patriots fans. Sorry, Jasper, but I got to do something for it real quick. Hey, Patriots fans.
What podcast doesn't have ads?
If you want
Bad
to see
ones.
Toyota's
Ones nobody
best
listens
offers,
to.
including those not seen on TV, go to buytoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots, Toyota. Let's go places.
Let's go.
How did I do?
No comment.
Now we're gonna get played on WEI. I've already been on the Sports Hub. I've already had Twitter beef with people. No one's listening. I hope so.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Don't get on my
No
case,
comment.
everybody. Everybody getting mad at me for this.
Hang on. We need to talk about this.
Thin skin.
Can
little
you stop?
sensitivity?
Can you please stop bullying people on PU?
Yeah.
Because it comes back to me. And I don't want to have to disavow myself from you. We're friends. But I will do it if I have to. So please stop taking pot shots at people on PU, okay?
All right.
You need to calm down a little bit.
I don't want to. I didn't even say anything bad.
Yeah.
I did not. It wasn't that bad.
You called people out.
It wasn't that bad.
You called people out.
It
wasn't that bad, but you called people out.
I more called the social media people out more than who we're talking about.
I'm talking about both of them. I'm talking about both of them equally.
No.
Stop using Patriots Unfiltered as a pulpit to bully people. Please.
I don't know. Let's toughen up a little bit out there. All right. Take some more calls here. Line one. Who we got? Reed from Atlanta. How you doing?
Hey, fellas. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Assuming that at 34 we go offense, right? And you all have been talking a lot about O-line. Would you prefer us to, solidify left tackle and then maybe double dip at wide receiver like, Brennan Rice or Tez Walker? Or would you prefer to maybe get that bona fide X at 34 and then maybe double dip at the tackle market, with the third and fourth round picks?
Yeah. Thanks for the call. That's the number one question right now, I think, on everybody's minds. Is order of operations here for the Patriots is big.
I'd prefer they go tackle, but I think they're going to go receiver. All the reports about, Okorafor potentially playing left tackle and, just all of that and where they've been at receiver, I think that they would rather the developmental tackle and get the receiver that's more of an impact player. I'd probably do it the other way around, but
I agree.
Ultimately, if you hit on both players, it doesn't matter.
I agree. I that's the way that the winds are blowing. And I early on in this process was tackle at 34. Yeah. You need to take the tackle. The line is a mess. You need to fix this problem. And I still feel that way to an extent. But I think the one thing that you're getting just reading the tea leaves about this current regime is, one, I think they trust the coaching on the offensive side of the ball a little bit more now.
Yeah.
A guy, obviously AVP to design it, but also Scott Peters to coach some of these guys up as the offensive line coach. I think there's a little bit more trust there. I also think in this system, you move the pocket a lot, especially on early downs. So there's going to be a lot of bootlegs. There's going to be a lot of half boots where it's not going to just be one-on-one pass rush all the time. Right. So the exposures to true one-on-one pass rush are going to be third down, 2-minute, obvious passing situations. Whereas in a more traditional McDaniels type of scheme or Patriots type of scheme, early downs might have had a little bit more exposure to one-on-one pass rush. This is going to be a lot of, we're flowing this way with outside zone, we're going to bootleg that way the other direction, and the flow of the line of scrimmage should essentially do the blocking for you.
Right.
So it's not as much of a stress on the offensive line in that respect. So maybe there's some elements of that as well. And you just, you get the developmental tackle. As much as I'm an offensive line guy, and I truly try to be an offensive line guy, at the same time, there's no denying that in this particular draft class, some of the receivers that might be available to them late first round, and obviously at 34, but even if they trade up a couple picks to get back into the first round, the receivers that might be available are true day one impact type of guys.
So, I mean, we've done this exercise before, Evan, where we kind of put this year's guys in last year's class.
Yeah.
A.D. Mitchell's a top 20 pick most years. The reason he's not this year is because he had an unbelievable season. There are guys that had multiple seasons playing at that level. He really only has one, right? He's not available because he's lesser than. He's available because there's more guys pushing him down the board. So I just think being able to capitalize on something like that is a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous opportunity.
I agree. I think these tackles are going to go. This is a really good tackle class as well, but it's really like a good top 8 or 9 guys.
It's the top 50 picks, and then it really drops off.
Yeah, then the rest of these guys are what they would be any other year for the most part. All right.
You may even see some guys getting pushed up the board.
Yeah. Who's on line 2, Jules? Greg from Stanford. What's up?
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Is that Stanford, Connecticut?
Stanford. Yep, exactly.
Nice.
So I guess, first of all, just great show. I've been listening to you for a while. You guys are great.
Thank you.
My question, and I guess more of a thought about the Patriots season, is that I don't understand why people aren't looking at this like a 2-year rebuild in terms of our draft. It seems like a lot of people want to get the receiver, QB, and tackle in this draft, and I think that our best plan moving forward would be to go QB first, wide receiver at 34, and then best player available at 68. And drafting that left tackle with our first-round pick next year, just because based on our schedule, it looks like we'll probably be a top 10 pick as well. So I think that would be the best plan. And I think with the Okorafor signing, it kind of tips the Patriots' hand to that plan. So I just was wondering what you guys thought about that.
Thank you for the call. I couldn't agree more. And this is not to pick on Patriots fans, but bottom line is I think a lot of people that are disappointed with free agency are just disappointed that there's no immediate instant gratification of the 2024 roster. Right now, the 2024 roster looks like a 4 to 6 win team. There's no sugarcoating it. In 2024, they look like a 6-win team at best, and that's if a lot of things go right in the draft for them too. Maybe they could be a surprise if the quarterback is good. If they draft C.J. Stroud,
right? They could be Texans.
They could be the Texans. But right now, they look like maybe a 6-win team. I think with the schedule that they have, which is disappointing. And maybe in free agency, they could have gone out there and they could have signed some guys that would have made them a 7 or an 8-win team, and maybe they would have been a little bit more competitive, and maybe they would have had a better product out on the field in 2024. But to the caller's point, I think what the team is going after is, let's really do this right. Let's make this a 2-year rebuild. I think by year 3 they need to be competitive.
Absolutely.
I don't think that they can look at it as a 3-year thing. It's got to be this offseason's a step forward. Next offseason's a massive step forward, and then we're starting to compete years 2 and year 3. So I agree. I think that tackle might become the need at the top of the draft next year. You're probably going to have a top 10, 15 pick most likely. Maybe you don't have as many holes next year as well, and you can start to flirt with trading up or being more aggressive in free agency after some of these guys to move the needle. I think that's the approach. This offseason is about laying a foundation. It's about hitting on the draft. It's about retaining some of the core players that they feel like are part of the future. And next offseason is where you really start to have fun with it, and you start to go for it.
And that's why I think you go project tackle at 68 or 103, because if you hit on the project, now you get to go best player available, within reason, best player available in the first round next year.
Yeah.
So you might as well take that. You might as well take that swing, because best player available at 68, they're all going to be project players right around when you get to that point, unless they want to get a guy like Devondre Sweat or somebody like that.
Yeah.
It just maybe gives you more flexibility next year.
All right. So a couple of questions I wanted to segue into that next week, as Alex already knows, but I think we've talked about it. I'm going on a little pro day tour. So I'll be at LSU and I'll be at North Carolina. Alex and I will record a podcast at some point to talk about all those things, probably on Thursday night.
Yeah.
We don't know yet exactly.
TBD.
what time and if it's going to be if you're going to see our lovely faces on video and all that stuff, but we will have audio for sure for you of my takeaways, Alex from watching it as well, about the pro days. So don't worry about that. It's going to be a good time. A couple questions from the emailers.
Wait,
Here.
we didn't get your recency bias players.
Yeah, I just named all the tackles.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you
I
disappointed?
thought you were going to hit me with like a running back or a safety or something.
No,
like tight end.
I have
Okay.
not even touched those. Tight
All
ends are next for me. I got to run through
Bub
these
means
tight ends.
first.
Yeah, I'll probably finish. I'll probably put a cap on the receivers.
You're
going
going
to
to hate Bub means, and it's going to be a whole thing.
Oh my god,
I'm ready for it.
I just all right. Anyways, so obviously that segues us into Jaden Daniels and Drake May. I'm glad that we can do a program that we can go an hour and 40 minutes without really talking about those two guys, because I just feel like that's all everybody talks about at all.
That's why the show's different.
So
baby.
that's I'm glad that
that's
we did
why
that.
we get the sponsors.
That's why we got Roger Rosengarten and Javon Foster and those guys in there before we got the number 3 overall pick. So 2 different questions. One from Sean in Toronto about Jaden Daniels that are both related to things I think people have concerns about with him. Is anyone else concerned about Jaden Daniels' arm strength? He says it reminds him of Mac Jones. I don't think that's fair.
Every quarterback in this cycle, just Patriots fans see
find a way to compare him to Mac Jones.
He's
Yeah.
There's one, maybe 2 quarterbacks in the top
I think
group you can
Caleb is
compare
the
to Mac
only
Jones.
one that I haven't heard a Mac Jones comparison.
I've heard because the after game antics.
No way.
I've heard it. I'm not saying it's right. It's not, but I have heard Caleb Williams, Mac Jones, parts of their games compared.
So
I haven't.
Drake May, who is 6'5", 230 pounds, and a freak athlete and freak arm talent, all that kind of stuff, is Mac Jones.
I'll say this. I see it more with Drake May than any of the other quarterbacks. I will say that. Here's why.
How?
Because he does the weird stuff where he's like in the grasp halfway down and just flicks the ball out underhanded and tries to get it to somebody. Now it works for him. That's the difference. But he did make some Mac Jones-ish decisions.
And I get it that with Drake, and I wanted to talk about, but we can talk about both of them.
Yeah.
I get it with Drake May that some people see that type of stuff on film. He had that really bad pick against Clemson that everybody likes to put up. I think that was from 2022. I get that people see these things and are like, oh, that's not going to work in the league. Like when he threw the touchdown pass lefty last year, people are like, oh, that's not going to work in the league.
That's a little Mac Jones-ish.
This is reckless, yada, yada, yada. But bottom line is that in terms of turnover-worthy plays, he's the only guy that has a lower percentage of turnover-worthy plays last year is Jaden. He has a lower turnover play rate than Caleb for sure. Caleb is really bad, and we never talk about it with Caleb, right? Like
Evan Lazar, Caleb Williams is really bad. Print the headline.
I think Caleb's generational.
I know you
I
do.
think that guy's
I
freaking
know you
amazing. Caleb has a much higher one. Everybody's boy J.J. McCarthy has a higher turnover-worthy play percentage, but Drake May is the reckless
he doesn't have the
machine.
sample size to really count. Does he even have enough pass attempts to qualify?
Well, it's percentage.
I know, but I'm saying, does he reach the qualified number of pass attempts per game?
So I want to talk about 2 things with these guys.
Yeah.
Sean brings up Jaden Daniels and the arm
Wait, I guess
strength.
there's only one guy who can truly comp to Mac Jones in this draft, though, and that's Bo Nix.
Yeah, Bo Nix got a little bit Mac.
He's like Mac Jones with a little bit of extra.
Yeah, that's we Alex Smith.
Sounds a little worse.
Well,
Bo Nix is
style.
boring. Bo Nix, like that's what, and I guess that's not necessarily a bad
I'm
thing. He's just
okay. So
he's just a little. He's like the anti-Joe Milton.
These 2 are related in some ways, shape, and form. So first emailer from Toronto. Sorry, I forgot your name already. Sean from Toronto is concerns about Jaden Daniels' arm strength, which has been brought up. And Barth from Poland, good friend, Barth from Poland, has concerns about Jaden Daniels' numbers into the middle of the field. Right, I brought this up before.
Yeah, this is your big thing.
So he's only completed 16 passes between the numbers at the intermediate middle part of the field. Right, that 10 to 20 yard, 25 yard range, in the middle of the field between the hashes. So I think these things go hand in hand. When you throw to outside the numbers, yes, if you're going to throw it deep out, you got to drive the ball outside the numbers, right? Like that's pure arm strength. But for the most part, a lot of Jaden Daniels' throws are touch passes outside the numbers, slot fades, things like that, where he's throwing deep balls. He's not driving the ball. He's throwing it with distance, which he has plenty of distance on the throw. It's more about the gas and the velocity on the throw. And I would say that I have less concerns about arm strength than I do with his ability to read the middle of the field and take some of those easy throws to the middle of the field. He seems a little bit, apprehensive to throw the, okay, front side dig, it's covered. I'm going to come to the second dig in, and throw that one. I'm going to throw the layered throw, anticipate through the zone windows and throw a little bit of a layered throw in here with anticipation. Like those types of things. The arm strength thing, though, it doesn't concern me a whole lot because of how mobile he is.
Right.
Mac Jones's problem was he had to sit in the pocket and make throws. And that was the only way that he was going to be able to do it in the NFL. And I think what happened with Mac is that at the college level, he was able to anticipate and he was able to stay a step ahead of defenses. Once you get to the NFL level, defenses are complexer, they're faster, they're better. So you can't always be a step ahead. So when he had to make decisions and he had to make plays post-snap, that's when Mac Jones ran into issues. I'm not as concerned about that with Jaden Daniels. Like if Jaden Daniels has to throw an out, a deep out past the sticks for a first down, and he doesn't like it, he can just pull it down.
Off, yeah.
He can just pull it down and make a play, right? Whereas
Right.
Mac Jones didn't have that.
Hopefully slide.
Mac Jones didn't have that luxury. So the arm strength, I think, isn't elite. Like he doesn't have the biggest of arms to drive the ball into windows, but I think that your windows are going to be a lot bigger because they have to account for different things with Jaden Daniels, and B, I think he has a plan B. I think he has a left hand. Whereas with Mac, it was like everything needs to be in structure, on time, in rhythm all the time. Whereas with Jaden Daniels, I think there's playmaking ability there that he's going to be able to make up for the lack of arm strength. Do you have any concerns about his arm strength?
No. I mean, he's not Joe Milton. He's not going to throw the ball 80 yards in the air. But it's not I wouldn't call it a knock.
Yeah.
It's not like his
he
biggest...
He has average arm strength. He has a great deep ball.
Right.
But his ability to drive the football is pedestrian.
But here's the other thing. He's going to need to bulk up. So you figure he's going to put some muscle on and just will have more natural strength. Because his mechanics are pretty clean.
Very.
So I feel like once he kind of he should put muscle on. Like he's got to get up to 225.
Yeah.
When he does that, he's not going to do it by pounding cheeseburgers and getting a beer gut, right?
Hope not.
That'll just add some RPMs, add some velocity to his throw. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's like this perfect ability of his or anything, but if that's why you're not taking him at that point to go to the next tier, I think you're just nitpicking because the issues for the guys in the next tier are much worse.
So when I go to his pro day next week, this is my number one thing on the list. Like, how does the zip look live? How does the ball coming out of his hand look live? Is it a ball that gets on the receivers quickly? How do Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., how do they catch it? Like, is it not that you want him to be throwing 100 miles an hour at people's faces or anything like that, but you want receivers to say, these are strong throws. These are throws that are getting on me quickly. So I'll definitely be looking at that. What I do like about Daniels, though, and this is the one thing that I'll be looking for with May, that has me hung up on whether or not the Patriots are going to love him as much as I think that they are going to love Drake May. His release. How has he worked on shortening his release, tightening his release? He does have a longer throwing motion. It does take a little bit longer to wind up and have him throw the football. That's the one thing that I think clearly as a passer, Jaden Daniels has over Drake May. Jaden Daniels got a quick, efficient, a very, very nice over-the-top release. Drake May's is a little bit longer. It's a little bit slower. There are concerns there about that ability, but at the same time, he has so much more arm strength that if he is a little bit slower to it, he can make up for it just by driving the ball. But I think the bigger concern is more about the arm and how far back it goes and leaving it vulnerable to sacks and hits and things like that, which does happen on film, at least on one occasion that I can remember. So footwork, I don't think you're going to glean much from Drake May in footwork because there's no pass rush, right? So everybody's footwork looks great when there's nobody trying to kill him in the pocket. But I do think that it's only natural to throw the way that you throw. So if he's worked with a quarterback's coach, if he's worked with one of these gurus, Jordan Palmer or Quincy Avery or somebody like that, on tightening up his release, I think that would be encouraging to see that happen. That's the one thing that I look at with the Patriots. And I with McAdoo's influence, with AVP's influence, that ability to get the ball out quickly, that short, compact release. There's pressure. You got to get it out fast. Drake May, does he have that ability? Does he not? I think Daniels, maybe I would favor him a little bit more in that category. So what are you looking for with May, and do you have any concerns that you're looking for to quell?
I mean, the mechanical things, definitely right where his mechanics at. I think he needs to be more consistent in that regard. But my issues with Drake May aren't things you're going to see in a pro day. Like you said, it's the decision making.
Yeah.
The pressure thing also doesn't necessarily bother me as much. My biggest problem with Drake May is too often he passes up what would be a good play to try to hunt a great play.
Yeah.
And sometimes he makes a great play, but in the NFL, that's not going to happen as much. And he does need to be better at just, like, I would sit down with him and just be like, if you have a 5-yard slant, take the freaking 5-yard slant. Stop trying to throw the ball 35 yards into a contested window when you have the 5-yard slant, right? And you don't want to totally neuter the kid either, and you want him to have, the opportunity to use his natural talents, but he needs to take a profit more. He needs to not be, I don't want to take away the whole gunslinger thing, but he's not going to have as much success with some of the circus stuff. What are you grinning about?
You know who you're describing right now.
I know exactly who I'm describing. I know and they never fixed him.
This is why you hate him.
I don't hate Drake May because I
No. I'm not saying you hate Drake May. I'm saying you hate the other guy.
Right. But
can you just say who it is? Because people are
Josh Allen.
People are like, who the hell are they talking about?
My problem is they've never fixed Josh Allen. They still let him do all the dipsy-do bull whatever, it cost them games.
I knew that we were going to get to this point in this draft cycle.
This is why I like Drake May, because I think it's an opportunity to take that guy and actually
How do you like Drake May?
Because
his ceiling comp, comp is Josh Allen.
I've told you why. No, I've said this because I missed the boat on Allen. I missed the boat on Herbert. And clearly there's something in that makeup that works that I've been missing, and I'm not going to miss the boat again. That being said, can you take that guy and instead of doing what the Bills did and just giving him the key to the city for leading the league in turnovers, can you actually work with him, iron some of that stuff out, and not just make him a good quarterback, but actually a winner? Drake May is raw, not set in his stupid, annoying ways, Josh Allen. That's the difference. Is he's younger and he's impressionable. And can you just take some of that out of his game?
I do. I see both Herbert and Josh Allen in the we're talking about ceiling, right? Like how
he's Justin Herbert physically, he's Josh Allen mentally.
So I think he's just pure Josh Allen, because with Josh Allen, all of the concerns were accuracy, footwork, mechanics, level of competition, which I know the ACC is higher than Wyoming, but it's still not great.
Not by much.
Right? Like there's so many of the same things that we heard about Josh Allen, and I'm the same way. I'm the same way as you. I did not see it with Josh Allen. I thought this is a guy that couldn't hit a broadside of a barn. I didn't really see it with him either. But I feel like we have to evolve and we have to learn a little bit.
Right. That's kind of where, like, clearly this guy can work is where I'm at, but can you make him work without the missteps that Buffalo's made with him? Because there's a reason he hasn't won anything.
Who's run the division for 5 years and
And then what? And then what's happened?
Yeah.
So
he ran into Patrick Mahomes.
Let me ask you this. I was on Felger and Maz this week, and Felger actually asked me a very interesting question. Because we talk about if you think there's a franchise quarterback at 3, and we qualify that as like if you think there's a guy that can win a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
There's a franchise quarterback at 3. Do you take him? Do you still trade the pick? Whatever. And Felger asked me, what if they draft Jared Goff, 3rd overall?
Yeah.
Would you consider that a success? And what I said to him...
Which Jared Goff?
Well, I said yes, because here's the thing, totality. Jared Goff made a Super Bowl with the Rams. He's been to multiple conference championship games.
He made a Super Bowl like but he made a Super Bowl like Jimmy G made a Super Bowl.
So let me make my point.
Yeah.
Everybody would say Josh Allen's a better player than Jared Goff. I would even say that.
Yeah.
Who's had more success? Which team has done better with the pick, or in the case of the Lions, the trade? Who's had more success? Jared Goff. No, don't. It's Jared Goff. It's Jared Goff.
It's barely Jared Goff. I mean, both of them made it. Like he made it. So Jared Goff has won an NFC Championship game, and Josh Allen's just made it to a championship.
And Goff
game.
made another one.
I just think that there's such a big stark contrast of what's on those two players' shoulders in those situations.
This is my point. the drafting the quarterback is not the end of the process. It's the beginning of the process, because even if you draft the right guy, it's what you put around him that matters.
Yeah.
And to your point on how do I like Drake May if I don't like Josh Allen,
you hate Josh Allen.
Outside of adding Stephon Diggs, which was a great move, the Bills have not done enough with the rest of that team. They never got the wide receiver 2. The coach is terrible.
I think that the thing with Josh Allen that you see is
let's draft.
He needs to be Superman for that team to win.
But is that about him or is that about the team? Did the
Both.
team choose to? So what if you took that guy and put him in a situation where he doesn't need to be Superman all the time?
I don't think you can do that because I don't.
How can you not do that?
Because I don't think that that's not how he plays. Like his the way that Josh Allen plays at an MVP level is to be Josh Allen.
So
he's not going to be Jared Goff. He's not going to take the layups and dice you up underneath and do that.
Josh Allen was enabled in that role by the Buffalo Bills for years. He still is. What I'm saying is you have a fresh slate here.
Yeah.
You tell Drake May, hey, you can be Superman sometimes, but when it's not working, we have other directions we can go with it. Set him up with that opportunity. When have the Bills ever had a counterpunch to Josh Allen being a circus clown? They've never had that. They've never had that.
I'm just telling you right now. I hear you, and I hear what you're saying. But I'm telling you right now, if the pick is Drake May, the experience is going to be like Josh Allen.
Doesn't have to be. That's what I'm saying.
It's going to be the exact same down to the developmental track. Like if he plays as a rookie, it's going to be ugly. He's going to throw picks. It's going to be, Josh Allen, his rookie season, I think had it was like 9 to 19. I think it was something like that was his TD to INT ratio.
Yeah, it's terrible.
By year 2, he was good.
And what happened? They got him Stephon Diggs, and everything changed because Diggs is the best player in that offense, and you hope the Patriots get that equivalent player. It's not a bad take.
Especially now.
Oh, he suddenly got so good when a top 5 receiver in the league arrived. That must have been all him. And he suddenly got so good.
It's never all of them for anybody.
All I'm saying is, I've said this about the Bills for years, Evan. It doesn't need to be the way it is with Josh Allen.
Yes,
they
it does.
choose to make it that way. No,
they
choose to make it that way.
He's not a precision passer. Like he's a haymaker. Like he's not.
So Josh Allen is the reason they've never bothered to develop a run game. Josh Allen's inaccurate
the run
passing
game's a different
is the reason.
story.
No, it's not. It's not. They always steered into the skid with Josh Allen, and he's going to be erratic.
I'm just talking about the pass game. Like Josh Allen is not going to be Tom Brady.
Pass game.
He's not going to sit there and pick you apart. But that's not his game.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they said Josh Allen's erratic, so let's just invest all our money in all our resources in guys with a massive catch radius and run 4 verts all the time, and that's what we're going to do. They were like, we are going to steer into it.
Welcome to the North Carolina offense.
Right. I'm saying if you're the Patriots, you don't have to go down that path. You can be like, hey, we're going to supplement this with the run game. We're actually going to, knock him and tell him when he's doing things wrong and try to change his game rather than enable it. How many offensive coordinators do they have to turn through? The one guy who kind of corralled him, he played well, and then he left.
You're missing the point, though. You can't just tell him, hey, Josh Allen, start taking these throws, because he's not good at making those throws. So you can't just make him into something that he's not. You're asking him to be like an efficient precision passer.
I'm not saying ask him to be efficient.
He is literally, he is like the NBA is now. Like he's like a 3-point shooter.
I am saying
he's
just
bombs away.
Have other ways. First of all, you can work with him on things like mechanics and things like that. You can.
He's so much more better at that than he was early on. But if you take away his superpower, then we do have to wrap up.
Right, and I'm also saying you can find other ways to win that have nothing to do with him.
Yeah, good luck with that.
That's what the Bills don't have.
All right. Well, whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan like the Bills need for Josh Allen. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here. 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus play it smart from the start. GameSense MA, oh my goodness. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. My goodness, that is a
Physically
mouthful.
present.
We
Physically
really
present.
need to work on that. Like, can we just
No,
we
you
need to
can't.
shorten this
You
by
can't.
a lot.
You can't.
Okay, I'm
can't.
telling you that right now.
Physically present in Massachusetts.
I'll be in Baton Rouge. I'll be in Chapel Hill next week. We'll have Patriots Catch-22 giving you everything that I saw and heard and everything at the Pro Days next week. I'll get better at the DraftKings lead. Until next time, thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.